right. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's episode of The Vince Dow Show. I have to play the intro, and then we will start, because that is how the show works. So true. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome everyone to the Vince Dow Show. I am your galaxy-brained host, Vince Dow. And before we begin, everyone be sure to leave a like right now on the stream and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We got quite the show for you guys tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Got to follow up a little bit on the Donald Trump indictment story. So now it's being announced he faces up to 100 years in jail. Because that makes sense, of course, and, you know, that's totally not a witch hunt. Also, my liberal doppelganger, hold on, let me post the donation link in chat. If you guys want to super chat the show as usual, it's all greatly appreciated. Let me pin that there. In fact, I missed the dono the other night on Streamlabs, so I'll play that here in a second. But continuing here, previewing the show, we got to talk about that. Also, my left-wing doppelganger. Remember him? Remember liberal Vince Dow, that Victor Shi kid? He had a complete meltdown on Twitter today, and we're going to react to it just because it's funny, okay? Just because it's funny. I'm basically his top A-log at this point, but it is quite funny. So we're going to react to that. Also, Tristan Tate goes to beef with Mizzy and then is now reforming the kid's life. Remember that kid in the UK who was going around breaking into people's houses? We have an update on that front. And Harry Sisson makes ridiculous claims about climate change. We got to react to this whole claim that, oh, climate change is the reason why New York is having wildfires. Therefore, you have to totally change your entire life. That's all tonight on the Vince Dow Show, and we will start momentarily. We're at 16 likes. Let's get the stream to 50 likes. And again, guys, you want to super chat to support the show. It is greatly appreciated. But let me, hold on. I missed this guy's dono the other night, and I feel bad because I always say, donate on Streamlabs, donate on Streamlabs. And then I think I missed this one. So let me play it here for you guys. Hopefully he's watching, but... Oh, wait, no, maybe I did play it then. Hold on.
Gay ops.
Okay, maybe I did play that dono, because I actually do remember that. All right, just wanted to make sure I didn't. Okay, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into the show tonight. It is the Hour of Dow. Let's get started here, ladies and gentlemen. Well, we open tonight with a slight update on the Trump indictment situation here. So, currently, when you break down all the charges, Trump faces up to 134 years in prison, over $130,000. And I guess potentially with this document thing, up to 400 years in prison. Absolutely ridiculous. But let me just say it. And this is the reason I want to follow up on this. You look at this story, you look at what they're doing here. I will just go out there and say, full steam ahead, Republicans need to impeach Joe Biden over this. And straight up, and the reason why I'd say that is because this is war. In a figurative sense, it is war. And I think it'd be a very huge mistake when Biden, number one, is guilty of far worse with this document stuff. They say, oh, Donald Trump, he kept documents locked away in like a very secure, Mar-a-Lago is like Fort Knox, very secure compound. But, he kept them locked away in Mar-a-Lago. Meanwhile, Biden had them in his garage, his Corvette, freaking Chinatown, University of Pennsylvania. We know he is guilty of far, far worse. We understand, right? Double standard, two-tier justice system. I'm not telling you anything new there on that front, but that's precisely why I think it would be a huge mistake not to say, okay, well, Democrats are going to do this. They're going to try to, use the political system against Trump for something that is fairly benign. Then if Republicans do not go back and say, okay, well then if you want to witch hunt us, we're going to more correctly and for a better reason witch hunt you, then I think that's a huge political mistake, okay? And I know what everyone's going to go out there and say. They're going to, my bad. Didn't mean to do that. I know what everyone's going to go out there and say. I already know. You're going to say, oh, well, Vince, what's the point? If you impeach Joe Biden, he's not going to get removed. So who cares? What's the point of doing that? Okay, well, first and foremost, you need to a degree prove a point, okay? Because this is you wonder why part of the reason Democrats always use revenge politics, and that's all they do, right? Everything they try to do politically is just go after Republicans, witch hunt Trump, all that stuff. Do you know part of what makes that possible, my friends? Part of what makes that possible is they know for a fact it never happens back to them. Because that's the danger, of course, of revenge politics is, okay, well, if you try to use the political system to get revenge on your enemies, then guess what's going to happen in the reverse? They might do the same thing to you, except they know that Republicans are full of crap and never actually do the same thing in reverse. And so that's why I would say that's number one. You need to prove a point here that they're not just going to keep getting away with this, okay? If you're going to constantly witch hunt our people, then we are going to start witch hunting your people who are guilty of, again, far, far worse. So that's number one reason why I demand Republicans need to go forward with an impeachment of Joe Biden. You cannot just, show to the world essentially your cowardice. They're playing revenge politics, they're abusing the system, but you won't ever want to fight fire with fire. What's going to happen? They're going to keep throwing fire at you, especially if there's no repercussions. That's reason number one. Reason number two, though, however, is that it may to a degree help Trump in this whole discussion, because how much of the American public actually knows about the Biden document stuff, right? And if you remember, prior to the election, part of the reason why this Trump document story got buried for several months is the moment that the Biden document story came out, in his freaking just strewn all over his garage, papers everywhere and all that stuff. The general consensus, and I even saw a lot of liberals going out there and saying this, they were saying, well, now we can't get Trump over this documents thing because Biden is far more guilty and we kind of screwed up on that front. And it's very interesting. What they did is they just waited a few months until everyone forgot about the Biden document stuff. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to bring this indictment. And you can't just let that happen, right? What an impeachment would do is bring to light the fact, for the moderates out there, for the independents who still have this naive belief that the system is fair whatsoever, it will bring to light, hey, wait a minute, they're after Trump for this documents thing. Look at Joe Biden. On the specific documents thing, he's done far worse. But then on top of that, you look at the corruption he's involved in, Hunter Biden. You look at the fact that he, is willingly delinquent in his job at the southern border, whatever, articles you want to bring against him. And I'm sure you could bring multiple. It will drive a national conversation on, the fact that, again, Joe Biden is far more corrupt than the guy they're going after. That cannot be ignored. And that's the biggest thing. You bring forth an impeachment, they can't just ignore it. Because what do you think is going to happen? They're going to do the same exact thing they did with Hunter Biden, which is, remember during the 2020 election, what do? They just censor it. They bury the story. Yeah, you go out there and do these Fox News hits about how, look at what Joe Biden did. But do those ever really reach anywhere? Do Democrats ever acknowledge this stuff? Does the center even acknowledge this stuff? Not exactly, because it's buried, it's suppressed. However, if you do bring forth an impeachment, that's a national story. That's not something that everyone's just going to ignore. And in many ways, I think it actually could damage their efforts to indict Donald Trump if we're going out there and bringing to light and actually doing something about it. Again, not just doing Fox News hits, calling them hypocrites. No, actually bringing this forth, being serious, making it the center of national conversation. I think, that would help us in this situation. It would help us now. It would help us in the future. And if not, then, I would argue in many ways, you're sort of abandoning Trump, or you're just leaving Trump out to dry with all of this stuff, right? Because that's the biggest thing. You want to know the mishandling of documents, which debatable. I mean, we'll find out, more details, I'm sure, in the coming days on that front. But this thing they're alleging he has done, as we know, every former president has done. Obama has done, Biden has done, even vice presidents like Mike Pence have done, freaking George Bush, and then Hillary Clinton, of course, we know nothing ever happened there, right? If you do not come forth and say, okay, you're playing this dirty game, we're going to play this dirty game, then, you're going to let just the witch hunt succeed, more or less. And then what does that mean for the future? What is that? Oh, Donald, well, all the establishment Republicans are going to say, we don't like Donald Trump. And that's probably secretly, they're very happy about this. And they're like, hey, but who do you think, is going to be the next target of this stuff? I think we fully understand that. And so that's why I think it is 100% imperative. It is crucial. It'd be a huge failure and mistake if we do not. It is imperative, right, for Republicans to pursue an impeachment here of Joe Biden. And I know that. Oh, he's not going to get removed. I know that, guys. I know that. That's really not the point of the impeachment, right? What is an impeachment, more or less? It's a political circus, and that's true on both sides. However, I would argue from a strategic sense, this political circus is extremely necessary because, we need to clear Trump's name. And the biggest way of doing that, oh my gosh, because you see the liberal media having this fake outrage. I can't believe he endangered our national security with the documents. Again, you need to bring forth, A, that you are willing to use power just to the same degree as they do, so it's mutually assured destruction, and then B, the actual truth in regards to Joe Biden's corruption. And so that's why I would say impeach Joe Biden 100%. And that's what I'm formally calling for here tonight. But before we go on, I got to talk about liberal Vince Dow's response to the indictment thing. We should just do this every single night. My take on a political issue, and then we'll do liberal Vince Dow's take on the political issue. But in the meantime here, let me get caught up on Super Chats. Sheeny Beanie for $5. Thank you very much, Sheeny Beanie says, so is Biden going to jail? He had classified documents from before he was president, and the documents weren't in a SCIF in Biden's case. 100%. Exactly. We know this, right? Biden is far guiltier on the documents front. But again, what does it really come down to when you think about it? It's not about who's guilty or who's not. It's who has the power and who doesn't. And unless we show, you want to do this, we're going to do this too, then, we can sit here and scream on Fox News and scream on YouTube all we want about Joe Biden is a hypocrite. Hey, look, they're guilty of far worse. Unless you actually do something about it, which is why I say go forward with an impeachment, drive a national conversation, shine the spotlight. If you don't get him removed, which you're not, at least shine a national spotlight, then this is what I think needs to be done. Thank you for the $5, Sheeny Beanie. I appreciate it. Rex Marco Andres for $2.49. I have no idea what currency that is. D's? 249 D's? I don't know. I mean, Marco Andres, is that a Latin American currency? I have no idea. Maybe is that a P? Is that pesos? I don't even know. And sends a critical hit super sticker. I appreciate it very much, Marco Andres. Thank you very much. God bless you. And Sheeny Beanie for $5 says, presidents decide what is classified and what isn't and can declassify documents. Exactly. This is weaponizing the justice system against political opponents. Thank you for the $5, Sheeny Beanie. And absolutely, we know this. But again, what's my central point here? We know this, but we need to hit them back for it. Peacefully, figuratively, of course. Small Graydon guy for $2 says you should debate Vince Mao. I'm gonna try to interview him. I don't think he would ever respond to me, but remind me at some point. I'm gonna send an email to him. Could you imagine the content? Right wing Vince Dow versus left wing Vince Dow. I mean that'd be like the greatest thing you have ever seen. Okay, so we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna try. Listen, we can do it on a neutral platform, okay? We'll call up Vice. That's not exactly neutral, but you know what I mean. We'll do. Why wasn't he invited, by the way, to the Vice panel? Okay, he should have been there. He would have really fit right in, But anyways, all right, let's get into the. Is that his name now? We're just calling him Vince Mao. Okay. I actually prefer liberal Vince Dow. I feel like it's funnier, but okay, Vince Mao, we could do that too. But let's get updated here. So the other day we talked about my left-wing doppelganger, the left-wing Vince Dow. His name is Victor Shi. Okay. And, we talked about this. We reacted to him. Go watch it if you didn't. But he's basically just a big time like Biden chill, goes on MSNBC, used to work for the Biden White House, all that stuff. Well, today, we just talked about the Trump indictment story from our perspective. Well, let's get his. So he went on Twitter today and basically had a complete mental breakdown at Republicans. And we're going to react to it because it is quite funny and quite unhinged. So here we go, though. So as you see, Representative Andy Biggs, based guy, we love Andy Biggs, goes out there and says, we have now reached a war phase, eye for an eye. And this is what I was saying in the first segment, right? I was saying, okay, if they're going to go after Trump for the documents, then we need to impeach Biden for the documents, considering it's far worse. And I said the same exact thing, right? Figuratively speaking, this is now a state of war. If they're going to use revenge politics against us, then we need to do the same. But Victor Shi responds by saying, F you. Interesting response there, Victor Shi. I think in many ways you prove his point, right? So you're using the justice system to go after your political opponents, and you're treating it like war. But then when, you know, a Republican comes out there and rightfully points out, well, hey, listen, this is a war, eye for an eye, let's do it. Biden is far more corrupt than Trump ever was, allegedly. He's just like, F you. Which, of course, does indeed prove this is a state of war, and that's exactly how the left views it. But then he goes on to say, sorry about the profanity, but my tolerance for these Republicans is over. And I think that's reciprocated, Victor Shi. I think my tolerance for these libtards is over. But all of them spreading this narrative should be ashamed and should be immediately removed from office. All of us must speak out and demand better. So again, right, this is total projection. Because you go out there and call us criminals, insurrectionists, all this stuff, and you basically admit it is a state of war. You're straight up like, F you, let's remove everyone who supports Donald Trump from office. And you just straight up said it, right? All of them spreading this narrative should be immediately removed from office. So you think that everyone, again, who stands with Donald Trump in this situation should be removed from office. Okay, fine, that's your opinion. But then you turn around and when a conservative comes out and says, well, it's war, let's play the same game, suddenly you're so pissed. Like I said, it's projection in many ways. But anyways, he says, these people are the same people who want to decertify 2020 election, blah, blah, blah. They're traitors to our country. They want to destroy democracy, and we must vote them out. Okay, thank you for that, liberal MELTDOWN. Let's go on here. He said some other stuff today, and we're gonna check it out here. So here he is, shielding for Hillary Clinton, because the guy could not be more pathetic. So he says, live reaction of Hillary Clinton, now watching Donald Trump finally being held accountable and knowing she was right all along. Evil reptilian witch laugh. And then he goes on to say, and if you missed Hillary Clinton's tweet this morning, throwing all the shade in the world, and it is glorious. I am still with her. And I guess she's wearing this thing that says, but her emails. See, I see liberals all around spreading this whole narrative. They say, oh, well, see, Trump got indicted, therefore that proves Orange Man is bad. And see, look, Hillary Clinton never got indicted. And it's like, this is not the flex that you think it is. Actually, it proves our point, because what is our central point around Donald Trump? We say it's a two-tier justice system. We point out, right, that the system is heavily corrupt. It totally leans in one direction, and the people, everything they basically accuse is a projection, right? Oh, Donald Trump is corrupt. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton is out here destroying, acid washing a bunch of emails and doing everything we know she did. But their argument I've seen the last 24 hours has been, whoa, Democrats never got indicted. Yeah, so what you're saying is that the system completely serves you and you're in charge of the system and you are in control of the uniparty, and the uniparty is very corrupt, right? That's the exact point that's being proven there. And I've seen that not just from Victor Shi, but all around. Everyone's going out here, Donald Trump got indicted, ha ha ha. Doesn't prove the point you think it does. It actually proves, yes, that you are out to get him, the system is out to get him, and the system is two-tiered and corrupt and all that stuff. And we know this, but anyways, we continue on here. Okay, there he is, Jack Smith, speaking to the nation right now about the first ever federal indictments. Just total shill, right? Total shill, as you can see. People literally sacrificed their lives to obtain these information in these boxes, and Donald Trump kept them in the effing bathroom. Just let that sink in beneath contempt. Yeah, but, and then, first of all, it's Mar-a-Lago. It's like a compound. It's very secure. And then secondly, as we know, Biden kept them in the garage, but of course, they're just totally dishonest. So here it goes. Shilling more and more. But yeah, there was the response of Victor Shi. Just wanted to talk about it very briefly. Liberal MELTDOWN. We need to have a discussion. I agree with the chat. Let's bring Liberal MELTDOWN on for a discussion. All right, he's totally ignored me thus far, but I don't know. I'll try to find an email. I'll try to find something. Victor, imagine the content, okay? You don't like me. I don't like you. But we're long-lost cousins, first of all. And then secondly, imagine the content, okay? Like the phonetics there. It's so Asian. It works. MELTDOWN versus Victor Shi. Could you imagine? Could you imagine the content? Be wonderful. We'd be wonderful. I have tweeted back at him. Asian reacts. I have tweeted back at him. He's not responding to me, so that's part of the problem here. Because that is absolutely the plan. I have been responding to his tweets, but he doesn't seem to care. which, I mean, he has hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm not even hating on, oh, you're ignoring me. But I'm going to try to use a more legitimate means of contact, and we'll see. We'll try to arrange something. But anyways, Noah for 169 sends balloons. That's the first super chat from Noah. Thank you very much, Noah. I appreciate it. Good to see you here, man. Thank you very much. That's Vince Mao. Is that what we should start calling him? Am I getting in trouble? Oh, that's racist. Literally Asian. Okay, what are you going to say? But it is true. That is Vince Mao. That is Vince Mao. Andrew Yang is Din Svao. Victor Xi Jinping. That is a funny one. That's a funny one. His own ideology blinds him. Absolutely. Jack Wayne says, oh, damn, that Victor Xi. I remember Twitter endlessly pushing his this blank on my timeline when I don't follow him and neither do my mutuals. Yeah, that's him. That's apparently him. So, it is true. All right, anyways, with that said, let's move on here with our stories. Feel free to send in a super chat, and let's get these stream 250 likes. It's appreciated. Thank you guys, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so moving on here tonight, and we should end relatively early tonight, so we might have time for, super chats, Q&A extended. It is Friday, laid back, relax. Rex Marco Andres for 99, whatever currency that is, says, we need the purple hair girl back. That is true. I don't know if she would ever speak to me, but that is true. That is true. Actually, she made a bunch of TikToks about me that I never responded to. I totally forgot to respond to them. We should actually do that. They're quite interesting. But anyways, let's move on here, ladies and gentlemen. So, about a week ago, we reacted to that guy, Mizzy. If you don't know who Mizzy is, remember he's the guy who was in the UK. He went around doing these pranks where he broke into people's houses, stole people's dogs, straight up assaulted people in some cases, right? Hopefully you guys have seen it. I'm sure you have. If not, you can go check out that prior streams. But anyways, we also talked about the fact that all the UK did was nothing. Again, this guy broke into people's houses, went around assaulting people, stealing all that stuff, and they gave him a slap on the wrist. They basically fined him, I think it was like 300 pounds, and let him go. Absolutely nothing. Did absolutely nothing about it, and I discussed how the kid should be in jail. He's a menace to society. He's causing so many problems. But part of the reason he keeps doing it is, again, because, the UK won't do anything about him. We'll update here. The UK is still, no surprise, doing absolutely nothing about this character. But apparently, Tristan Tate, who, if you don't know, that's the brother of Andrew Tate, he got into, I guess Mizzy sort of tried to start a feud with him, but they ended up actually having a conversation, and now Tristan Tate is working on rehabilitating him. So we'll go through the timeline here. So it all started when Mizzy makes this video calling out the Tate brothers. Here you go.
Tristan Tate, I saw your little comment on the video that I made. Do you not think I don't know where you live? You joke, man. Tell Andrew I said hi and that I'm coming for his bagay.
So there he is, right? Just talking trash. I'm coming for your Bugatti. I'm coming. But apparently, folks, apparently after that video, the two of them had a conversation, and he tweets this out, and he says, this is a video I posted to call out Tristan Tate after the comment he made on my viral TikTok. It then led us going to a private chat where he helped me come to a realization with my life and my approach to playing this game. I'm smarter than you think. Hashtag Mizzy. So that's very interesting, right, ladies and gentlemen? Apparently they had a private conversation, and then he kind of said, okay, I'm realizing I'm not really doing the right thing here with my life. And I will point out, ever since then, I went and looked on his Twitter timeline. Ever since this 5 days ago, he's been doing some videos, some sketches, but I haven't seen him going around doing these like menace to society pranks or anything like that. Like, he has not gone around ever since going around, causing problems for people. So I will maintain, and I will say, okay, my opinion on this still is the guy should be in jail, okay? The stuff he did in a normal, proper society is still punished, right? Because this kid, he breaks into several people's houses. He destroyed property, right? He went around the library destroying people's stuff. He freaking assaulted a guy. That's also what they finally fined him for, was he assaulted a guy. I think any normal society throws Mizzy in jail. But with that said, I also do understand that the UK is not going to do that. Okay, like it is what it is. They're not going to do that. And so I will say props to Tristan Tate on this one, because if we understand that either like we can go around and say he should be thrown in jail, which I will still maintain he should, but if they're not going to do that, then either A, someone comes in and is a fatherly influence that clearly he never had and actually turns around his life, or B, he just continues to go around and run around being a menace to society. And I think that alternative is far, far worse. And so apparently I read some of the stuff here. Tristan Tate is making him like read books and take his life seriously and all that. And so, you know, like I said, it's still not my ideal solution. I don't think it's his either. I think he would agree. I mean, some of the stuff he did, it should be punished. He should be held accountable. But if that's not going to happen, then at least I'm glad to see someone is stepping in and at least trying to be a positive influence in the kid's life. So shout out, props to Tristan Tate on this one. Also, props to Tristan Tate for following me on Twitter. That was cool. I was not expecting that. But anyways, there's the update on the Mizzy front. And we go on here to our last story tonight. So, transitioning here, you guys have heard, obviously, about the New York wildfires, right? Or the Canadian wildfires that are bleeding over into New York. You've seen the videos by now. You've seen the orange sky in New York and all that stuff. And listen, it's rare, it's extreme, it's kind of crazy, you know, rare to see. Now, I will say, having grown up in California, I saw sky like that all the time because I was Southern California. Wildfires happen all the time. I understand it's rare, it's crazy, it's an event that definitely is worth talking about. But I do have to address this, okay? So you see these Canadian wildfires and the orange sky in New York and all that stuff, but climate activists are going out there very directly blaming it all on climate change. And here is our good friend, the notorious Biden TikToker Harry Sisson, addressing the fires up in New York.
So I'm in the state of New York right now, and if you haven't seen the news, forest fires in Canada are blowing smoke and ash down into New York and other surrounding states, and the sky is literally orange right now. Like, it's 2 p.m. and the sky looks like this all over New York City, the suburbs, everywhere across the state of New York. And it just goes to show you that our environment is important. And if we continue down this path of not caring about our environment and not caring about climate change, this will become the reality for a lot more people.
Yeah, so, I mean, they do this every single time there's a bad weather event, right? Hurricane Ian, climate change. Oh, so-and-so rain, whatever. Climate change, this and that. Here's the thing, though. You can't just do that, right? That's not logical, because bad weather has always happened. Wildfires have been around for thousands of years. Hurricanes, all these weather events, they are fairly common, okay? Now, you could argue, perhaps, as they say, that these things are becoming slightly more severe because of climate change. But A, you don't really know that. You don't really know, hey, if there were no climate change, this would not have happened. There is really no proof of that. But then B, you also don't know to what extent climate change actually affects it. You see what I'm saying? But this is what they do. And you could maybe study that, come back to me, prove, hey, here's how the climate, blah, 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 science. But they don't even do that. Just every time there's a severe weather event, they just scream, climate change! See, this is climate change! Da, da, da. And to the reverse, I would point out that, okay, then how do you explain other things, right? So, for instance, I grew up in California, and all I heard all my life is, oh, you know, the drought that California was in from the 2010s, right? That was all climate change. The reason California is in a drought is because of climate change. Well, first of all, California has been in droughts before. Many places on Earth, far before fossil fuels, have gone through periods of drought, on and off, this and that. But if you want to say, oh, the climate change, whatever it is, okay, well, now I would point this out. So California actually is no longer in a drought for the most part because they had a very rainy winter. So a lot of rain this past winter, they're out of a drought now. So then what do you say to that? Do you say, is climate change over? Do you see how this is totally incoherent? It doesn't actually make a lot of sense. You can't just arbitrarily point to weather events that have always happened, but oh, this is a little bit worse than some of the ones we've seen in the past few decades. Therefore, it must be all because of climate change. I mean, again, maybe that is true to a very marginal degree, but they're basically just screaming at the sky. Like, there's no proof of any of this. They don't really explain any of this, okay? But regardless, I want to address this argument because you're going to hear this with the fires. If there's a bad hurricane, you'll hear it every single time, okay? Let's, for a moment, pretend as if everything you're saying is true. which is not. I'm not saying it's not true, but it's unproven, right? You haven't really shown or explained or substantiated, hey, the reason why this is happening is because of this X amount of climate change. They just claim, oh, bad weather, it must be climate change, right? But let's for a moment pretend that it is true, that we can quantify that man-made climate change is making these severe weather events slightly more extreme. To that, I would still say that still does not justify your policies. It doesn't. Because consider the alternatives here. So they always say, well, bad weather, that's climate change. You don't like bad weather, you must embrace our policies. But they never actually explain what their policies are. When you look at their policies, their proposal to fix, again, weather events that already would happen but are slightly worse, their solution is to fundamentally upend human life. Okay, so this is the alternative. I don't know what the heck just fell. What was that? Yo, the Matrix? Okay, I don't know what that was. Okay, anyways. I don't even know what... Okay. As I was saying. Okay, so their proposal, their alternative, is to make weather events 1% to 2% less bad. We have to not drive our cars, don't eat meat, embrace cancerous synthetic food, live in the pods. In many cases, you look at Europe, basically freeze to death during the winter because you're not allowed to burn gas. Do all this stuff, fundamentally destroy the entire human way of life simply in the name of, fixing climate change. Consider that alternative for a second, okay? All of that is just so that the hurricanes still happen, but they're 2 to 3% less severe, which again, we don't even know if that would fix the problem, which, let's newsflash, it probably won't. But we simply have a theory. We have a hypothesis that if we totally destroy our entire way of life, the hurricanes that have always happened for thousands of years are going to be slightly not as bad and maybe cause like $100,000, $200,000 less dollars worth of damage. Do you understand how that value exchange doesn't actually make sense, right? And that's why they don't ever actually go into basically, I hate to use the term virtue signaling, but it really is to a degree true. I don't like that term, but it's very true. That's all that this climate change stuff is, okay? Because they never actually sit down and say, this is what we need to do. It's just, look, bad thing happened. This is because Republicans won't talk about climate change, blah, blah, blah. And when you break down the value exchange, it doesn't make sense. So hot take, right? Let's say it's 100% true that all the crap that you see, the hurricanes, the wildfires, all that stuff, the droughts, all of that is caused by man-made climate change. I would still to that say, I literally don't care. Because I would rather we as humanity deal with that. And by the way, there are ways to innovate to deal with that, right? Hey, there's a drought. Okay, well, let's figure out a way to better the soil, okay? Or people also act like we don't have all this technology, right? So if there's a drought, okay, well, let's irrigate, let's desalinate, whatever it is, we'll figure out a way to get around it, okay? That's innovation instead of regulation. Understand that? Okay. Hey, there's hurricanes and they're getting worse. Okay, then, let's make sure the levee in Louisiana is stronger. Let's figure out ways to deal with it, mitigate the problem, okay? Innovation over regulation. That I think, is the solution there. But for you to go around and say, okay, well, are you scared of the bad hurricane that might, kind of be pretty bad, worse than usual? Then you need to totally destroy your way of life. You need to basically live below the standards of a third world country, and again, freeze to death and whatever it is, all because, well, at least the hurricanes aren't as bad. It's silly. It's stupid, okay? Climate change could be happening 100% the way they claim it is. I would still say your solution to it is stupid. I would still say I would embrace, really bad hurricanes here in Florida rather than live your way of life. Because, and like I said, people pretend as if there's no way that humans can innovate. Oh, the weather is slightly more severe? Okay, then we can deal with it. And that really is the solution here, okay? Because there is actually no proof that any of your ideas are going to actually bring down climate change, especially when you consider, A, that to a degree there is natural climate change and you don't even know how much of it is man-made, and B, even if it is all man-made, China, India, everywhere else, right? The United States only contributes something like 15% of global emissions. So even if we were to go back to the Stone Age and get rid of all 15% of that, there's still a bunch of the rest of the world polluting, right? So it's all silly, it's all stupid. My point in this is that you cannot control this like you think you can. And let's just be realistic. You can't control it. So the solution is not regulation, it is innovation, right? And that's what I'd say. That's what I'd say. But, every single time they're going to bring the wildfire. It must be climate change. We need to totally, destroy everything. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. All right, well, let's get caught up here on these super chats. It is 8:37. I mean, we could just do Q&A for the rest of the night. We could even do call-ins if you guys want. It's Friday. It's relaxed. It's a chill show. But let's see here. Sheeny Beanie for $5 says, alternative title, moron never heard of a jet stream. Climate change is the answer to all the questions you never asked. Thank you for the $5, Sheeny Beanie. And it is so true. Every single time. Climate change. Oh my gosh, it's climate change. Oh my gosh, it's raining today. It's climate change. But like I said, so what happens when it goes back in the other direction? Because California, as just as one example, is out of the drought, right? Let's say this year, okay, last year we had Hurricane Ian. It was really bad here in Florida. Okay, so let's say this year there's no bad hurricane. What does climate change disappear? It's just, they totally just make stuff up. It's ridiculous. But thank you for the $5, Sheeny Beanie. I appreciate it. Zachary for $10. Thank you very much. Says, wasn't Andy Biggs the one that sent you millennial leftist tweet? I don't remember. I'm not exactly sure. Thank you for the $10 though, Zach. I appreciate it. Can someone let me know? I'm not exactly sure on that front. Thank you for the $10 though, Zachary. I appreciate it. God bless you. Republican Thinker for $2.20 Canadian says, New York skies endorse Orange Man. This is true. This is true. I really wonder why the skies in New York turned orange after they indicted Donald Trump. Surely it was not the revenge of the Orange Man. Surely it must have been a climate change. See, that's cope. That is cope and fallacy, because we all know the real reason all this stuff is happening is because, that's New York's punishment. They have an orange sky because they went after the Orange Man. And this is true. This is true. Let's be honest. That really is the reason. Regular Degula says, exactly, climates have always been changing. And this is the thing that you're actually gaslit about by the climate activists, because what they say is, oh, the climate has always changed. Yes, that's true, but it's never changed at the rate it currently is, right? We notice the climate change over the span of thousands and millions of years, not hundreds of years. Okay, well, first of all, I would say from an archaeological perspective, you're not really going to know that, because it won't really show up in the soil difference if you're not looking super carefully. Hey, this 100 years ago, it was a little bit like 1 degree hotter, and then it got cooler, this and that. So, that's just not really substantiated or true. But then to that, I would say also, there is solid evidence there on the record that actually climate does change over the span of hundreds of years. Because this is what they always say. They say, yes, climate changes, you stupid conservative, but we're talking about thousands and millions of years. It doesn't change at quick rates at the span of hundreds of years. To that, I would say that's actually not true. Because from the 1200s to the 1700s, literally look this up, the Earth went through something that was called the mini ice age, right? So early medieval period is actually warmer. Google it. We had a medieval warming period. And then from about 1200 to 1700, we went through, literally look this up, look up the little ice age, the mini ice age. We literally went through one, right? And so they say, hey, look, with the start of the Industrial Revolution, the climate started going up again. So that's what, the 1800s is when we start to see the climate go up. You know what else happened in the 1800s? The little ice age from the 1200s to the 1700s, right, ended. So when you look at the supposedly rising global temperatures today and say, they have no explanation. They actually do. We are out of the mini ice age. So of course the Earth is gradually getting warmer because we left a mini ice age period. Okay. So we can research that. But there have been many different warming periods, right? During the Roman Empire, they used to, and look up the Roman warming period. They used to grow grapes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in England. If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me on that. England or France. Okay, so I know it's a European country. I believe it's England. Don't get me wrong. But there's proof, right? They used to grow grapes and grow, do the wine and all that stuff very far north, way further north than they're able to do today. This was during the Roman Empire. And why is that? That is because, again, Earth has go all the time, goes through periods of warming, cooling, and you're never told about this, and they never talk about this, obviously, because it's suppressed. It's very deliberately suppressed. But it shows you how lazy the science. It's the science. The science also says that the Earth does change climate in the span of hundreds of years. So what's your point? Right? And then something else I would point out, and listen, maybe this is just a theory. I will acknowledge this has no basis in anything. But, you guys get the feeling, I noticed this, you probably noticed this too. Do you notice that the seasons nowadays seem to start later than they did when you were a kid? Do you notice that? Do you notice like wintertime, we consider December to be the start of winter. And yet now you look at wintertime, it doesn't really start till like February, right? And then spring doesn't really start till like April. And then you see what I'm saying? Like the seasons seem to be pushed back. Now, again, I don't know this. The science heads can figure this out. That to me does not suggest climate change. That suggests something along the lines of Earth's rotation must be changing slightly, right? Maybe our orbit, whatever it is, it fluctuates. And that could also explain perhaps why the Earth is warmer now, because it goes through periods of slight fluctuation. Maybe we're on a different rotation now, which is why the seasons change, or maybe something to do with the moon. I don't know. But the seasons changing, that has nothing to do with the climate. That has to do with polarity, right? That's the magnetic forces that, between gravity and the moon and the sun, and that's what causes the changing in the seasons. And so if the seasons are now starting later, then maybe that suggests there's something different about our orbit or whatever it is that has nothing to do with us putting methane in the air. I don't know, just a thought, right? Just a thought. So Adam says, shut up, nerd, science is fake. John Doyle. Very true. Science is indeed fake. We love to say it. It's my favorite pastime is denying science. It is among my favorite pastimes because I just love the look on people's faces, when you say, actually, because science, we understand, is basically a religion, right? They respond to it like you would in a cult or a religion or whatever. But it's funny because the look you get on people's faces when you just say something like, well, I don't really believe in evolution, or yeah, climate change, it's kind of all whatever. They look at you like you just committed heresy. Like it's a very intense, angry reaction. What? How could you not believe in evolution? I'm a nerd. I go on Reddit. I was gonna say something, but YouTube TOS. I go on Reddit. Many such cases. Vince, this is a very interesting conversation that I would like to debate with you about on stream if you're cool with this. Thank you for the $5. I mean, why not? Let me make a Zoom link here. Give me a second. We could do that. Like I said, it's Friday night. It's a chill stream. We have time. So let me see here. I gotta make a call-in link for you. Okay. All right. I'm gonna post it in the chat. If any of you other hooligans try to join the Zoom, I will just simply not accept you in the waiting room because that probably... Okay, let's see here. Link. Give me a second. Okay. Okay, Burgundy Blue. There's an invite link. There you go. Okay. Boom. And then let me turn on virtual camera. And then let me share the audio. And we should almost be good to go. So there it is. By the way, it's audio only, so you don't have to worry about your video. So don't be like, oh, let me do my hair. You don't need to do your hair. Don't worry about that. But here we go. So let me share the audio from Zoom. And then turn on the monitor. Mr. Producer. Literally me. Okay. All right. Okay, we should be good to go. So whenever you want to join the waiting room, Burgundy Blue, it is ready for you. Yes, let's have a climate change debate. It'll be a great clip. It'll be very fun. Regula Degula says they'll scream believe the science and then the next breath tell you that sex is based on feelings and men can get pregnant. Well, I think what that does go to show you, but the thing is though, I will point out in fairness, the scientific consensus now does say that those things are true. Gender is on the spectrum, but that does go to show you how much the science can be just easily manipulated by political interests. And this is the thing too, right? Liberals often will rightly point out how big the influences of things like big pharma and lobbying and whatnot is in the American healthcare system and whatnot. And that actually is true, right? That is true. but that actually is part of the reason why the science in this country is completely fake. All that it is so-and-so lobbying interests wants this or whatever passed, right? Let's just say the seed oil companies want to produce more seed oil. And so they'll go and pay for a study that says, okay, find a way to prove to me, manipulate it however you want, but find a way to prove to me that seed oil is good for you. Boom, there you go. Put in the money, all that stuff, and then boom, you have a study that says seed oils are good for you. That is how the science in America is done. That's how science works in this country. So, so they say, trust the science, that's so... I like, as much as I do like to say science is fake just because it's funny and it's hilarious, it's really what we more so even mean beyond that is simply that, that there is no actual science in this country. It's just completely... like I said, so-and-so interest group wants so-and-so conclusion, and so let's just pay a bunch of money, finance a study, and have that done. Okay? So this is why 6 years ago, transgenderism was universally declared a mental illness, and then all of a sudden, when the political stuff came out, all of a sudden, oh, well, let's decide as scientists that it's no longer a mental illness. Yeah, where did that come from? I wonder who paid for that. So that's science in this country. And that's what they mean when they say trust the science. They mean, let's trust these expert class that changes their mind every 5 seconds, It's very true. Hold on, I'm trying to airdrop something here. Give me a second. Where is that? Give me a second. Okay, there it is. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, Burgundy Blue has entered the waiting room. All right. Or here we go. Let's make sure the tech is working first. Actually, hold on. I need to change some audio things on my end here.
Hey there. Oh, but can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, neat. So where do you want to start, I guess, with the debate? Also, sorry it took a while to get in. My Zoom had to update, so...
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. No problem. Well, I mean... I guess you're the one who came. So what is your contention with the things that I'm saying?
Honestly, I think you bring up a lot of good points that a lot of liberals don't. Honestly, it does seem like usually when liberals talk about climate change, they honestly believe that the world is going to end world is going to end by 2030, 2040. But honestly, that is completely overblown. So generally, what liberals don't understand is that there has been climate change in the past, even within human history over the course of hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And that generally their predictions are a lot more extreme than is probably what is going to occur. So, but generally, I do believe that climate change has happened before without the human climate change has occurred not caused by humans, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do believe that current human actions is at least partially contributing to the current global warming of the climate. But I think another part of that is obviously the fact that we are leaving the previous ice age of the sort of second millennium between the 1200s and 1700s. We're leaving that ice age and we're entering so basically the climate would be warming no matter what we did. It's just that we're making that a lot worse with putting carbon into the environment, if that makes sense.
Well, I think that it certainly is possible. I understand the greenhouse gas effect and how that can change things. And I do, I don't like to see American cities with a ton of smog, i.e. New York, where it's just a disgusting place. Obviously, I think when it comes to environmentalism, I do to a degree say, okay, well, I want clean air. That's my big thing. I don't care about the climate change thing, but whatever helps make the air relatively clean, it's not perfect, whatever, then, I think you're fine. My whole thing is that I do not believe that the human quality of life should be lowered for any of this stuff. Because first of all, I think it assumes to a degree, can we really control it? How much can we control it? I mean, let's not be naive about that. I kind of talked about that earlier. I don't think it's very realistic that in the end, you're going to be able to control any of this stuff. And then the amount that you lower human standard of life for whatever, 1% bringing down carbon emissions, I just don't think that the value exchange is worth it. And I think, especially, you consider the fact that I think the United States is 15% of all global emissions in terms of carbon and methane and all that stuff. Whatever the United States does, it's not going to matter if China and India don't, in theory, with global warming. And so I think really, we have a growing population on the planet, all that stuff. We as humans need to do what we have always done, which is not really try to regulate the problem or try to control it, but rather just innovate, right? I think this whole idea that, oh, well, we're going to be screwed over because of this or that, it overlooks the possibility of human innovation, which I think is going to happen. Sure, maybe certain areas do get more extreme droughts. Maybe part of that's because of man-made climate change, whatever. But I would also say, well, we can innovate around that, right? We have more advanced irrigation now. We can figure out solutions to these problems. But I think my whole thing is, yeah, it is true. Certain regions deal with drought, more extreme weather, whatever it is. We seem to have been seeing that. I don't deny that. My whole thing is that we have to just figure out how to deal with it as humans, because the idea that we can control it all or be able to stop it, I don't think it's realistic.
Vince, I think you make a lot of great points, and I feel like we generally agree on like the larger aspects of climate change. It's just that maybe like on the specifics, we are like exactly how to deal with it. We might disagree with because personally, I do believe that innovation will play a major role in combating it. But generally, I think that America can sort of, I guess, combat this climate change that we're going to be experiencing through two ways. And oddly enough, liberals would probably get very mad at me for at least for one of these policy options. The first is I think we need to wean off our dependence on coal. But listen, I know this sounds very liberal, but we do that by increasing investments into natural gas and oil production in Appalachia. Basically, because the coal industry is like extremely, it's basically the bedrock of a lot of like families in Appalachia, and so just allowing the coal industry to naturally go out, which it seems like it is, that would be horrible. So we need to invest in natural gas and oil in Appalachia. And I know that sounds crazy, but generally, oil and natural gas produce a lot less carbon than coal does, like in terms of energy output. So I think that
is cleaner. But I've never heard. Is there natural gas and oil in West Virginia and Appalachia? I've never heard about that.
There's plenty of like on the East Coast, like there is plenty of oil that with like especially shale oil, I believe. Although I don't quote me on that, shale oil. There's quite a bit of that. So I think that we should invest more in natural gas and oil in that region, not just like to combat climate change, but also to help unemployment in the region. Just generally incentivize businesses, maybe give subsidies towards businesses in that region. But most importantly, nuclear energy. Nuclear energy truly is the future. And I'm not sure if you agree or not. Do you? In terms of nuclear?
I agree. 100%. I mean, we have this very cartoonish view of nuclear energy because of Chernobyl or whatever that, clouds our judgment on this. It's actually nowadays, it's far safer than it used to be. Obviously, we understand how it all works now. And I mean, truly, and this is what I would say, if liberals were truly serious about climate change and how fossil fuels are going to completely destroy the planet, then you would not be investing in such shoddy, inefficient, just crappy, turn the windmill, and you look at the energy output, it's terrible. But nuclear energy, incredibly efficient, and you can have one power plant.
Incredibly safe, incredibly efficient.
So I'm all for nuclear energy. And then, I know very recently they're working on even making nuclear fusion as energy, which I don't know if they're fully there yet, but fission is the more dangerous one, right? But I think, that should be our pursuit. And not just because of climate change or whatever, just because it's a very efficient form of energy. So
I agree.
Yeah.
So it kind of lines up where it's like, basically we've solved climate change, yes, through innovation, but through very specific types of innovation. Obviously making more efficient energy sources, like new types of nuclear power. Also, I think it is important to try to at least share this technology to a certain extent. Obviously, not just like give it away for free or just like allow like countries to rip off the United States, but basically allow them easier access to this nuclear power. Because I think a major thing that people tend to overlook, especially conservatives, is that if climate change is allowed to run rampant and basically if we do nothing towards trying to curb our consumption of fossil fuels, or at least a very inefficient fossil fuels, then probably what's going to happen is the climate will change. The planet will overall get, I believe, 2 or 3 degrees warmer. And while that doesn't sound as bad, in areas like Latin America and the Middle East, this will cause a lot of droughts and dehydration, and this will lead to a massive refugee crisis. I mean, imagine this will basically lead to water wars. In fact, we're already starting to see that with clashes between Egypt and Ethiopia over who gets rights to the Nile River. It's crazy. And I think look back to the early 2010s and that Arab Spring and how that caused a massive refugee crisis in Europe. Imagine if let's say 10% of Egypt's 100 million population just cannot afford to live in Egypt anymore because of climate change drying up the river. Like, can you imagine like 10 million like Arab Egyptians like just like going onto the European continent? And that's just like one example. Like, imagine what will happen to the southern border if climate change was just able to run rampant. So generally, I think that we also need to help other countries get this new efficient type of energy production, so that they can also curb their consumption of fossil fuels, especially these developing countries like China and India. Well, maybe not China to a certain extent because they're our rivals, so we wouldn't want to give them any of our technology. But generally, countries that are more amicable towards the United States and Latin America, Africa, India in particular, they're a major consumer of coal power nowadays. Basically, we should allow them to lease our nuclear technology to them. Well, also, this will benefit us like economically, but more importantly, prevent like massive refugee crises that come from climate change. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll tell you my problem with that is that when you share nuclear, because nuclear energy is based on nuclear fission, right? When you share nuclear fission with the rest of the world, you're also opening the gateway basically for them to develop nuclear weapons. So it's a little bit shaky there. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that.
And I feel like there's always going to be that risk, but I think especially for so my opinion is that we share this with the largest nations, let's say India, and India already has a nuclear program, so there's no risk of them developing nuclear weapons. That's why I specifically pointed them out. But even larger nations like Brazil, generally they're quite secure in their borders. Maybe not in internal security; they have a lot of crime issues. But generally, Brazil has no incentives to build.
They're also being influenced heavily by China at the moment, though.
That is true, but this can be our sort of like counterbalance towards that, where China is trying to invest in these countries with infrastructure, and then maybe not invest. Like obviously, we need to put America first. Like whenever I talk about foreign policy, this is actually quite interesting, since I'm actually studying international relations in college. But I feel like I just have a complete sorry if I'm stumbling over my words right now, but I'm just trying to organize my thoughts. But generally there are many different like perspectives that people use to engage in diplomacy and foreign policy, and I feel like a lot of time you need to use all the different perspectives when it comes to diplomatic relations. But I think one sort of key axle or key opinion that we need to stick by is America first. Is that we need to always consider like how this affects America and whether this money would be better spent in the United States. And I think generally we should always try to spend in the United States, but the money that we do spend or like any excess money that we might have, instead of spending that on more military projects or the military industrial complex, we should try to build infrastructure in other countries so we can sort of weaken China's influence in them, and also build up good relations with them so that they view the United States more positively, if that makes sense, especially in Latin America, which is essentially our backyard.
Yeah, I mean, people might get mad at that take, but to a degree, I kind of agree with you, because you see what China's doing in Africa. There's a big thing. They're basically building an empire, right? They're building an empire.
The Belt and Road Initiative.
And
I think part of it is actually a little bit overblown. And this is funny because people talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, and it is like a major threat to American, I guess, influence around the world. But I think part of it is we need to almost look at it as a cautionary tale, because China might have spent actually too much money on the Belt and Road Initiative on investments in other countries, because now those countries are not able to pay China back. And pretty much China's kind of screwed in this way. I forget who said this, but there's a very famous quote where it's like, if you owe China $1 million, you're screwed. But if you owe China $1 billion, China's screwed. So that's essentially what they did. Is that in many cases, like Pakistan, which is a neighbor of China, this has given them a lot of influence. But in countries far away from China, actually in Africa, that are very under very like a little risk of a Chinese invasion or any type of retaliation, a lot of them are just going to default on their debt with China and ask for America for protection. So oddly enough, I think that we do need to invest in other countries to try to gain a little bit more influence from them and try to push Chinese influence out. But we also need to be wary not to be like China and just recklessly spend and give money to other countries just willy-nilly.
My whole thing though too is I don't really want Biden investing in other countries, because what's he going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
There, I don't know, sodomy. So I would say we have to fix our country, but hypothetically, assuming that to some degree we do, then I think we should have some type of Monroe doctrine, probably, where it's like we declare China stay out of our hemisphere. You can have like Asia, but we're gonna cut up this multipolar world, and if you come in our hemisphere, we're gonna there's gonna be problems. So I'd agree with that. But I still don't know if
Yeah,
I'm kind of skeptical on the idea of sharing nuclear technology with a bunch of third world countries. Like it's just,
I understand,
mean,
but
and
it's
then
mostly going to be with the largest ones, like those maybe not who are the most stable, but generally who have the possibility of at least not being as reckless with this technology, if that makes sense. So obviously, Brazil is a very large nation. It's not really under any threat of invasion. So, like, I would rather give this technology to, let's say, Brazil or India, as opposed to, let's say, Guyana or even the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is quite unstable. Because then they might actually use that to build nuclear weapons. And
yeah,
that could,
don't give the Congo nuclear weapon. That
yeah,
doesn't sound
don't
exciting.
give the Congo.
Yeah.
I swear they already have enough issues as
They're
the.
probably gonna nuke themselves with it. They're just gonna.
Yeah, that is true. Nuclear civil war. Oh
Yeah,
shit.
yeah, exactly.
I,
But anyway,
actually I probably shouldn't say that. You're on stream, so yeah. Sorry.
let's see. Sheeny Beanie for $2 says, "Remember, they're still trying to find a gay gene." It's very true. Yes, they are. They have not found one. Ashley for $2 says, "What are your thoughts on multi-level cities?" Thank you for the $2, Ashley. That's her first super chat. I don't know if that question is for me or for him. What are your thoughts on multi-level cities?
Multi-level cities. Actually, I haven't heard of this concept before.
I have not either.
Do you know? Dang,
It
multi-level
sounds
cities.
like some type of dystopian Great Reset idea, but let's see what they actually
Honestly,
are.
yeah. Like
It
when I
sounds
first
like
heard that multi-level
what's that one city in Star Wars? You know the
which one?
the planet city where Coruscant.
Oh.
Coruscant. Yeah.
Coruscant, yeah.
Yeah, where everything's on top of each other.
Hey, honestly, yeah, it kind of makes sense. So
Yeah,
multi-level cities. Honestly,
this to me looks like a dystopian nightmare. This is basically where they have like very high buildings and the tunnels go in between the buildings, and yeah, it's
Oh my
basically like
God.
Star Wars life.
Yeah, honestly,
no,
that is
I think it's just dystopian. It is very dystopian.
I think that that's just like an extension of the mega city. I think
Yeah.
we need to move away from this idea of like, oh, that every city needs to develop towards being a mega city. I generally think that America should have these, large, powerful cities that sort of represent our country and show the best and brightest we are. Love say New York or any of the cities on the East Coast. But we need to understand that we also need to care for the smaller cities in the United States and the smaller communities, and that generally. So there needs to be like let's say one major city in a region of the country, and then surrounding that will be smaller cities which benefit from that, like a city's sort of human capital. But also, you get what I mean by this. So basically,
Well, yeah, I mean, because I think a lot of European countries, because they're small and even historically they were built that way because you had to be within the city walls, right, for freaking like medieval warfare.
Yeah.
A lot of those European cities are built on top of each other. I think in America, I mean, I wish our cities weren't so ugly. They're very ugly, and the architecture is brutalist and all that stuff.
That's
But
true. I will say that like a lot of the further east you go, the more beautiful America's cities get, though. As like the more historic, like you. Also, sorry about the. Do you hear that?
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sorry about that. I have the window open. But yeah, generally, the more east you go, I feel like the more beautiful the cities are. I think you were talking about this, like where a lot of cities in the Southwest just sort of look like this dystopian modernist architecture. Like New York has a lot of problems, but one thing I will say is that it is quite a beautiful city. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's old school. It's old school.
Exactly. You have a lot of like buildings from different eras, whether it be like obviously you have Freedom Tower, but then you have like the sort of Art Deco style. Then you have bridges which were built in the late 19th century, and then you got like obviously some historic buildings that are still left from the colonial period. Not many, but you do have some. So it's very interesting. I would say.
But the point I was going to get at is America does not need giant megacities because we have a lot of space, and I'd argue it's anti-American to all crowd together when we're like frontier people. But okay,
generally, I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for calling in. I'm gonna open up the call-ins to the public here. I mean, you can stay in. You can stay in the call if you want, but I'm gonna hold on. Let's see.
And I'm probably gonna check out. Honestly, man, I had a great convo with you. I'm not sure if I made any good points, but
no problem,
I was
man.
making
Thank
sense.
Thank you for calling in. There you go.
Thanks, man. Oh no, have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
All right, we're opening public call-ins. Let's do it. But ask a question. Don't come in the call and be like, okay. It's a Q&A. It's a Q&A chat. Okay, so ask me something or bring something. Okay. I swear, if just one person calls in and is like, hey, what's up? And it's all, we're shutting it down. So none of you better do that. Okay. I cannot stand when that happens. Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, I'm nothing much. Listen, let's be professional about this, okay? But there you go. There's the call-in link. I know someone else said they wanted to call in. So yeah. There you go. Let's see here. China isn't going to do anything different. Yeah, exactly. That's the issue. John A says, how's it going, Vince? We're good. We're doing call-ins. Do you want to call in, John A? Feel free to. It's open. By the way, it's audio only, so don't worry about your camera, okay? You know, let me do my hair. You don't need to do your hair. We don't care, okay? We're all men, minus the ladies, but we're all men here. David says, I'm a native of West Virginia, and yes, we definitely have natural gas. The house we lived in high school had gas wells. Well, there you go. Well, that's what they should start drilling in West Virginia, because I know the coal industry is struggling. Oh, coal. So yeah, I definitely think they should open up the natural gas industry, but they won't because it's climate change. It's crazy. It's crazy to think that West Virginia used to be a Democrat state too, and now it's like, didn't it go like 90% for? Let me see. What was the margin of that? Let's see. 2020. Trump, West Virginia margins. Let's see. $70%. Okay, I exaggerated it. But okay, let's see here. So we got Dirty Mike and got Tech Boy. Oh, Dirty Mike left. Okay, well, let's bring in Tech Boy then. All right, Tech Boy, can you hear us? Oh, there's Dirty Mike. Okay, Dirty Mike, I'll bring you in a second, okay? Tech Boy, you're live on the Vince Dow Show. What's up, man?
Hi, Vince. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. So school's out for me, and before the end of school, I had to do this like little environmental essay.
Uh-huh.
And just for context, I'm like the pro-life, conservative,
right,
anti-evolution kid, and everyone's like coming to school asking me questions and stuff.
Yeah.
And like sometimes being annoying.
Right.
So for the essay, I decided to write a speech as president, and I was basically making the same points as you were.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying that the essay requirement was like write some type of environmental problem that we have in America today.
Yeah.
And I decided to talk about eco-terrorism, where these people like just sit in the middle of roads and destroy paintings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I even quoted that book, I think it was called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. And he said, whether it's saying that we need to destroy capitalism and stuff.
Right.
And then at the end of my section, I told people that we should use like nuclear power because windmills, you know, the little wind turbines.
Yeah, they don't work. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they produce like too much noise pollution and
barely any energy. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
And then and I also talked about how the rules, like in Canada and some provinces, I think it's illegal to own a plastic bag.
So how did that go? How was that received?
Oh yeah, I got a 10 out of 10.
Well, there you go. Very cool. The class, were they mad at you about it?
I didn't present. I just did an essay. I could have presented, but
hold on, sorry, I'm typing here. So how's your experiences been at school though with these debates and whatnot?
Well, it started in like the end like March of 10th grade,
mm-hmm.
where kids are asking me, I just like made the point, hey guys, evolution doesn't exist, right? And then this one kid just starts, he's in my group, my project group. At my school, you work with like a group for a couple of months, and it's just a year-long debate, still continuing to this day, mm-hmm. where kids are like constantly asking me or using that as some sort of an insult, like science denier or something.
That's cool. You should just own it. I have a science denier hoodie, actually. You should just wear it to school. Say, yeah, I'm a science denier. It's very fun. It's more fun that way.
That'd be funny.
Yeah.
And then, like, last year, maybe in like around October, November, I started watching like Daily Wire videos.
Mm-hmm. So,
in November, I actually have it on my recording.
Mm-hmm.
I was running for president, right? And I have a 26-minute interview with like these kids. It's like some type of press conference type of thing, were just asking me if I was going to create the school and turn it into a what's the word, theocracy. People were asking me if I was going to turn the school into a theocracy and like ban abortion on school or something. I'm like, I'm not running for governor. I can't do that.
That's hilarious, dude. That's hilarious.
And yeah.
I remember actually, you know, it's funny. I remember I ran for school president when I was in I think it was, yeah, when I was in 5th grade. I ran for school president, and this was sort of the birth of like my political self, I guess, because I just went up there. And you know, what's funny about it is I already implicitly knew what to do. I made a bunch of false promises that were never fulfilled, but it got me elected. You know? But I remember that I went up there and said, we're gonna make the school lunch better. That was my big thing, because this was when Obama was president, and the food used to be good, and then there was like the Michelle Obama food, and it was terrible. You might be too young for that.
I just remember hearing about like what strawberry milk or something.
Yeah, they took chocolate milk out, strawberry milk, but the food itself also just got way worse. You know, like it wasn't healthy, but it's not even healthy, right? It's all like preservatives. It probably has more seed oils than before, but you know. But I went out there, and my big campaign platform was we're gonna bring back the old school lunches. Of course, I never had the jurisdiction or the power to ever do that, and I never got that done. But it got me elected, and that is true. From a very young age, I always understand how politics works. You know?
So you're saying that when I run next year, I should lie? That's what you're saying.
I didn't say that. I'm just saying you have to sell the dream. You sell a dream. That's all I'll call it. You got to sell a dream. But no, in all seriousness, the issue you got to find the issue at school that people actually care about. Right?
Yeah. My idea is that the school's base, they could care less about what a woman is. They could care less about abortion. They could care less if I like jumped off a building. They just want to have fun experiences, right?
Yeah. So maybe propose like some new student council events or something.
Yeah, that's basically my
or no, actually
idea.
No, that's not enough. You know what you got to do? You got to find something at school that pisses people off. This is what you do. So my example was the school food, because people don't like the change. Whatever it is, I don't know. Recess is not long enough. Teachers do this or find a policy at school that is generally considered to be bad. Like here in college, the issue is the parking. No one likes the parking, so you know anyone who campaigns on fixing parking always wins elections. You have to find that issue that really people are mad about and just say, "I'm going to fix it." That's what you do. You sell a dream. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, Dylan. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it. Best of luck with your student council election.
Who's Dylan?
Tech boy. My bad.
Oh, I thought you were talking to someone else.
I know. I always get you confused with Dylan G Tech, because you guys have like the same name. But yeah. All right. Thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you.
Oh, before you leave, I recorded your video with your clone, and it's going to be coming out soon.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Look forward to seeing it. See you, man. All right, let's see. We got George Soros in the waiting room. Okay. All right, George Soros. Let's bring in George Soros, ladies and gentlemen. George Soros, why are you doing this? Can you please... All right, George Soros. Hello? George? All right, we can't hear George. George Soros, you didn't even spell your last name right. I know you're getting old, but it's Soros with one R, not two. All right, George Soros doesn't want to talk. Oh, wait.
Can you hear me?
Wait, yeah, we can hear you, George Soros. What's up?
Yeah. So I was here to discuss foreign policy.
Okay.
I'm actually a foreigner. So
Okay.
basically, I know more foreign policies than Americans.
Uh-huh.
It literally affects my life every day.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the past of America has been like dark when it comes to foreign policy. Basically, in South Asia, countering China. You can like take example for like Pakistan or whatever.
Could you get closer to your mic? Or
You
so
guys
like
have been.
muffled. Like I can kind of understand what you're saying, but I think people are
Is
probably.
it good now? Is it good now?
Oh, it's a little better, yeah. See if you're.
Is it
I
good
think
now?
you
Okay,
might
yeah.
be like
Fine.
covering your mic or something. I don't know.
Wait. Just a second. Can you hear me now?
That's better, yeah. Yeah, it's a little better like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So recently we have seen that America has been interested more in Eastern Europe, right? They've been sending billions of dollars.
Yeah.
They don't really get that if they devalue their currency, most of the countries they will be pissed off because they have like literally pegged their currency with American dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Like why UAE dinar is equal to like $1 or whatever.
So you're saying
Like,
they
they are literally focused.
sorry.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'm
Please
trying
go
to.
ahead.
So you're saying it like causes inflation when you send all that money over there? Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Like they're literally interconnected trades. Like they're not focusing on that. Like Joe Biden is not like interested in it. What they're interested in like Ukraine. They're literally valuing it like climate change and like fascism and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that literally pisses off like most of the world.
Yeah.
You might see like third world countries, like the investments are like just going down. They're like crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
People are like just unemployed, and they're like focused on like Eastern Europe, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, so
literally,
so let me ask you a question. You as a foreigner, what then is your perception of the United States? Because I think a point I bring up a lot. Hold on, is my camera frozen? Oh no, it's still working. Okay. A point I bring up a lot is, I think a lot of the world actually dislikes the United States, and it's not because we have freedom or a constitution or like they somehow hate, I guess, the American way of life. It's more so that America imposes itself on a lot of the rest of the world forcefully, and then it spreads values that are very countercultural to what a lot of these countries historically have believed. Like you look at freaking Joe Biden, what's his whole agenda? The spread, I don't know, LGBT and feminism across the world, and then we wonder why, for instance, the Middle East calls us the Great Satan, or all these other countries are like, I wish America would stay the heck out of everyone's business. So my take on it is I completely understand why the rest of the world hates America, and if I were a foreigner, I would probably hate America too, to tell you the truth. But what's kind of your take on that, or what's your read on the way people feel about America around the outside of
personally,
America?
I would say like most of the countries here, right? Like if you like, there's a lot of mixed opinions, right? If you go to Africa, they're literally pissed off because when America comes to Africa, they're like, oh, they're interested in like transgender and like LGBTQ and like their human rights.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
They will like give you money for that thing, and if you don't, they will sanction you off. They will like literally sanction you off, and like they don't care if you die. Like your people stop. They just care about their agenda. Like when it comes to like liberal government and US and stuff. But when you come like countries that are like relatively richer, like India or like Brazil, Turkey or whatever, they're happy with you when you are in their side in like military conflict, or when you are invested in them, right? Yeah, like let's talk about India now. Recently, we have literally seen like the withdrawal from Afghanistan and all. Americans literally don't give a damn about this thing, man.
Yeah.
What happens here in India is like Pakistan, like, America has been funding them for like ages, and what they have been giving them in return is like betrayal. Where was the work Osama bin Laden found in Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
In Balochistan, the province in Pakistan. Then you see like the money that the America has been giving to the Pakistan. They're using the same dollars against them in Taliban and by funding Taliban, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah, Pakistan is
in
totally in bed
Pakistan,
with
the
this.
government
Yeah.
is like, they are two-faced. They're literally two-faced. The people, they are anti-Americans, but
Yeah.
when the dollars comes in, they're like, America is very good. We'll help them in conflict.
Yep.
Now, even after the withdrawal from Afghanistan, you don't see like much engagement with India and like other BRICS nations, right? Like the nation that are like relatively neutral, say South Africa or India or Brazil. You really don't find much engagement with them. But here, I would say you one thing: when Donald Trump comes and like other like conservative leader comes, they bring investments. They like bring like what's it
So-
saying?
so-
It's like
so- so
glory
what-
to India and other nations.
So what you're saying is the Indians love Donald Trump.
Exactly.
There you go.
It's not only Donald Trump. They're like more interested in Republicans because they are more interested in business.
Well, there you go.
They're more
There you
interested
go.
in business with like other countries.
We love
like,
India. One of the
Take
best.
Joe Biden for example.
Yeah.
Like take Joe Biden for example, right? They are interested like the Democrats are literally interested like what's happening in Uganda, right? Like homosexuality or whatever.
Yeah.
Why are you gay and whatever is in there. But
Yeah.
when it comes to Saudi Arabia, like they have banned homosexuality, but they have the resources. Like Americans are literally going to shut their mouth for just having trade with them.
Yeah.
And what is Saudi giving them in return? They are literally now not even trading in dollars when it comes to their oil. And when you know one thing, right? When you don't trade in dollars, the demand for dollars goes down, and then the currency is devaluing itself.
Right. Right.
And then the other countries are going to be pissed off because
Right.
they affect the currency.
Well, thank you, man, for calling in. I'm gonna
There
move
is
on to
one
our.
case.
I'm gonna move on to other callers here, but I think it was a good
Sure.
conversation, and best of luck over in India. Yeah, for sure. We love Modi, right? He's still prime minister, right? Or president? You guys are president or prime
Yes,
minister?
no, we actually have both.
Okay. Oh, are they different
Yeah.
people?
Yeah, they actually.
Okay. Well, shout out to you guys. All right, appreciate it. Thanks for calling in, man. All right, let's see. Dirty Mike, are you ready? Let me post the link again. I want the Dirty Mike calling. All right, this is going to be very interesting. All right. Ashley S says, "Who? What?" No, listen. I understood him barely. It wasn't even the accent, it's the audio. But I understood him, okay? He basically was saying America just spreads gay stuff around the world, and that's why other countries don't like him. But in India, they like Trump. And that's about all you need to know. That's about all you need to know. Burgundy Blue says, should I join the call? I mean, you can if you want. Dude is breaking up on my end. It was hard to hear. But I discerned, I had to use discernment, but I figured out what he was saying. You know what I mean? So hopefully you guys could too. Hopefully it wasn't worse on your end. But been waiting. Yeah, we're all waiting for Dirty Mike. Come on, Dirty Mike. Vince, I'll call, but it's loud where I'm at. Man. Dirty Mike, all the excuses, man. Come on, just call into the show. Come on. We have a score to settle about aliens. Come on now. Just be an alpha male. Tell him, shut up. Hey! Shh! Shh! Okay, here we go. Dirty Mike has entered the waiting room. Let's go. Yo! He's connecting to the audio. It's time. Ashley S says, I'm tempted to join. Go ahead. All right. Why are you gay? It is true. Okay, I think he can hear us now. Yeah, I can hear you.
I was just going to call in and talk about, I'm a grad student, and I get notified for every thesis defense. 9 out of 10 of them are Chinese students. I'm in engineering. We're training our enemies, our future enemies.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I notice the same thing, especially in STEM. And I know they always say, oh, well, the Chinese kids are smart, which they are. But at the same time, yeah, because what very often happens is, either they stay in this country, and then what happens is some American kid like yourself who actually is from here and is a citizen here and all that stuff, you go and try to get a job in engineering and you get outcompeted by this Chinese kid because he's a foreigner and he'll take a lower pay rate, right? That's either number one. Or yeah, number two, they go back home and then they just got all this American knowledge on the engineer. I know how to engineer now. And then, they go in and build up China. Yeah, so it's just totally stupid. And I've heard the defense before. All of the liberal STEM people say, oh, we need them because, what would we do? Right. Well, I don't know what we would do without them is train competent Americans. You know, it's like we don't address the question of why Americans are allegedly, at least, not smart enough to do the STEM stuff. But immediately, it's just like we need to bring in Han Lee's woke for like, you know, and then he's gonna come over and then, you know, take a spot that should go to an American and then take a job that should go to an American or go back to China and do the same thing. So I know what you're talking about, and I 100% agree. I observe the same phenomenon.
Well, I also work full time. I'm a design lead in the R&D department at a company, and part of my team is in China. And so my job is to take my team and take parts of the project and tell them what to do, and then they're supposed to do their part and design it, and then I pull it together and we create a system.
Yeah.
But when I don't know if it's I don't know what's going on with their engineers over there, but I have to do every design for them.
Yeah.
There's like no creativity. They're really good at replicating. So if I'll do part of the design,
that's the Asian way too. That's the Asian way. Yeah, but go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, they're really good at replicating, but they have no creativity. And I mean, literally, I have to design every bit of their project.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So what you're saying, and listen, they can't call you racist because you have me. I give you the pass. What you're saying is very often when you work with these foreigner, you know, engineer STEM people like the Chinese, for instance, that they claim, oh, they so much more qualified, they so much smarter. Very often they're actually not. Like, that's not true. But probably the reason why I'd assume that company works out of China is because it's cheaper, right? I'd probably imagine that's the reason why they don't put the whole operation in America.
And the standards in America. So I have to design. I deal with high power stuff, so I have to design it with certain standards, and they don't there. So they can sell a whole different system that's cheaper because it's more dangerous, basically. But don't get me wrong, it's not that they're Asian, because I work with other Asians that grew up in America, and they're just as good as I am. It's only the Asians that are in China.
Well, I'll tell you why, and I think to some degree you could argue there's a sort of genetic predisposition, but I think it's definitely a cultural thing too, is that you are right. You observe that very often Asians are very good at replicating, but we're not very creative. I mean, that's 100% true, right? And that's part of the reason why most innovation you see in like human history, I think is like 95% comes out of like Western Europe, right? Whereas Chinese, they have all the highest IQs over there, but they never innovate. They all look at it today. What do? They steal American technology, or they replicate American things, right? And so, you know, who knows to a degree how much of it is a genetic thing and how much of it is a cultural thing, but it is true, right? And that's, but it is also because, in China, the education system, they just totally train everyone to be these robots. Oh, pass SAT, pass American tests, and then go America. But there's no individualism, and that actually is a downside. Not that you should worship it. And I think the problem with modern America is we are overly individualistic to the point to where, like, we have no responsibilities, right? So we're too far in the other direction at the moment. But over in Asia especially, it is so anti-individualistic that it discourages any creativity, and nobody knows how to think for themselves, because the moment you actually think for yourself or try to innovate, create, I hit you with spoon, you know? So it creates this very, like, robotic mentality, and then you have that problem. But and then what happens, they come over here, and they're supposedly so much better at this job, but they have no common sense. They can't think. They can do the math problems very well, but what happens when you put that person in the actual engineer world, where it's not just doing physics on a paper, you have to actually create and solve problems, right? They have no clue, and it's true, and I 100% observe all the things that you're talking about myself.
Yep, in my experience, you're 100% right.
Yep.
All right,
sure.
I'm gonna let other people call in.
Okay, no problem, man.
Next time I call in, I'm gonna be at my desk and I'm gonna put my camera on.
Okay, no problem, man.
We'll meet face-to-face.
All right, appreciate it, man.
All right, man.
See you later. Bye. Oh, don't worry. The Chinese, he do better job than you. Bridge crashes down because they don't know how to freaking build it. Many such cases. See, I like that, you know, because Because I have the pass, I can just be honest about certain things as a, black woman of color, because this is very true. Asians don't know how to innovate. They're very smart. They don't know how to innovate. There's no creativity. Part of that is cultural. There's an argument to make some of it may be like a genetic thing. Who knows? Because I've heard that within Anglo-Saxons, within like English people, right? They think there's this individualism gene, which would make sense when you look at the political philosophies and stuff that have arose out of England and the West. But who knows? But long story, however you get there, all the time, we can never innovate anything. It's true. We just know how to do math. All right, Burgundy Blue is back. What's up? Burgundy Blue. Good to see you again. Oh, hello. Good to see you
back.
again, Burgundy Blue. Oh.
Back again.
Burgundy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Good to see you again. So I was thinking about like some stuff we could talk about. So I'm kind of split between two things because how I said I was majoring in international relations at a university?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically two things I was thinking about talking about.
You know be doctor?
No, sorry, I won't be doctor. No.
Shit, you disgrace.
Sorry about that. No, I'm a
Absolute
disgrace to my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare
No,
you?
okay. So basically my first year of the course there, we learned sort of the intro to international relations. And in that course, we talked about certain aspects of international relations. So first we discussed the four main theories that people use to analyze international relations. And then obviously some problems or issues that face modern like diplomacy, whether it be the rise of China or terrorism or new technologies being developed. But I find these like four theories quite interesting, or at least and specifically these four theories that the university decided to teach us. So that's one thing we could talk about. But then another is, I guess, the rise of China and sort of our thoughts on
China.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to Japan. Oh.
Yeah. Vince, I swear. Oh my god.
I'm the
Anyway,
only person in this movement that can do this bit and get away with it. I wouldn't care if anyone else does it. I think it's hilarious. But political correctness. But it's true. So you need me every time we talk about China.
Yeah, it's actually kind of funny because the Vietnamese like actually really do hate China. So.
We do.
Yeah, true.
But
only in America could you get away with this.
I'm part Chinese. My name.
Wait,
Dao.
really?
We think
that's
so.
True,
yeah, Dao is a Chinese name, but and my family originally was from the north, so I'm sure at some point there's some crossover.
Yeah, probably makes sense.
But anyways, what were you saying?
So, which one would you like to talk about, or if you want to talk about both, which one would you like to talk about first?
I'd like to do China just so I can do the accent. I think that's a good one.
Okay, were you serious or?
Yes.
Okay, so honestly, when it comes to China, I think there's a lot of things that are quite admirable about them, especially historically speaking. I think that we actually can learn one major thing about China, and that's how to create a very stable society. I mean, China is pretty much the only. So you know how there were, I believe, 4 or 5 countries in the beginning. It was Egypt, Mesopotamia, the Indus River Valley civilization, and then China. Yeah, one of the original civilizations. And China is the only one that has at least remained in somewhat of a similar form. Obviously, like Egypt has a completely different population, even though it's a similar geographic area. Mesopotamia is completely different in its cultural values. Same with the Indus River Valley civilization that was wiped out. But China, at least, even if it doesn't have a lot of the same cultural values that did in the beginning, it's pretty much the same population, just expanded.
It still does have a lot, because Confucianism, Mao tried to wipe it out, but it's even that is coming back. So
exactly, and I believe Confucianism is actually one of the most simple yet probably best of all conservative ideologies in sort of like simplicity of social relations. Obviously, women are respecting their husbands, children respecting their parents.
Hierarchy.
Hierarchy.
You listen your father.
Yeah. And I think even to its like the people respecting the government, or at least a competent government, I think it's actually quite ingenious as well, where it fits in with the mandate of heaven, where if the government is incompetent, then the people do have the right to overthrow it, which I think many Enlightenment philosophers this came centuries before them. So it's quite interesting that China sort of developed this on their own. This idea that you can remove a tyrannical government, or maybe not tyrannical government, but an incompetent government. So, So generally, there's quite a bit we can learn from China historically speaking. But I think China, especially in its modern form, even though I don't believe that China is really a communist state anymore, I think that the communists within the CCP or the sorry, not yeah, Chinese Communist Party (CCP) do have an immense amount of sway. So even if China is capitalist or at least state capitalist in economics, and even if it is quite nationalist, there are certain aspects of Maoism or sort of the legacy of Maoism that still lives on to the modern day, whether it be with the inefficiencies of its government system, where there's so you want to know how exactly COVID broke out in China, or at least one aspect of it.
Well, I don't know what you're allowed to say on YouTube, but something to do with
sorry.
the bat, allegedly.
No, so it's not necessarily about that, but generally, so COVID broke out in Wuhan, but nobody in the city, or at least the municipal, like government officials, wanted to tell any of their higher ups that something was going on in that city. So they basically just lied about it until they couldn't. Then they passed that on to the state officials, and then the state officials lied about it until they couldn't, like, do that anymore.
Oh.
And then they basically lied about it until they couldn't, and then it was brought up to the federal government, and that's like word for word. I mean, maybe not word for word, but that's exactly what happened during the Great Leap Forward with grain shortages. Is that local leaders did not want to tell their higher ups like that they failed in like collecting grain, and so they would just like pass that information as late as they could up to their like state officials, and then those state officials would basically fudge the numbers up until they couldn't to the federal government. And so that's a major problem with China, is that everyone is sort of afraid of a failure, to put it very, very lightly, but they're sort of higher ups.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, is I think that predates communism, and that would be my criticism of Chinese culture and Asian culture in general, is that it is so, like I said, I think the modern West is overly individualistic to the point where we totally forsake all responsibility, right? But I think Asian culture is so ridiculously over collectivist that you just... it very often is depriving of kind of human dignity and human liberty, obviously. And then B, you just get stuff like this. Yeah, because people are so scared, robotic, you know, you're right, the very top down, higher up thing. And that's something in America that very often we have this belief, and it's true. You look at like the way our military operates versus a lot of the old school traditional militaries, China, all that stuff, is we have this looser idea of command, which is, hey, you, the individual in the combat situation, it's your job to decide. You can decide what's happening. You do not have to follow every specific order. We're not going to reprimand you, right? We understand you are the one on the ground. You're the one who can best make the decision. Whereas other societies, they have these very strict command structures, and with, you know, the grain stuff as well. And so that would be my criticism, and I think that's why that is why Chinese have such a hard time innovating, despite the fact they literally have a society of all the highest IQ people, right? Is because in Asia in general, is because the culture there is so focused on you can't do it, right? You know that in America, we do it too much now, where it's go study gender studies, but to a degree, we've always had this. You could say to a degree it's liberal, but maybe I'd say that in a good way. This idea that, you know, to a degree, there is a little bit of individualism. There's a little bit of pursue your passions, autonomy. And that's what creates innovation, because people get creative and they know, and they learn to think for themselves, and they do things for themselves. Whereas China, the reason they have to steal all of our technology, despite having all these very smart people, is because the people don't know how to think for themselves. And when you can't think for yourself, you can't innovate for yourself. And, you know, it's true.
Yeah, generally I would agree with you. However, I lean quite a bit more towards like the Chinese system of authority, with some like liberal critique, or I guess like critique that we should like not be exactly like a photocopy of like China, where and I think actually a great example of this is obviously the Chinese system of Confucianism and respecting the monarchy and the sort of dynasties of China worked very well. You know, it was even if a specific dynasty would collapse, that system of like dynastic sort of like cyclical nature of Chinese government basically lasted for thousands of years, or maybe not for over like 2,000, 3,000 years, up until the year 1911. But again, that system eventually collapsed because it was not able to compete with the West, because eventually China became so isolated from society and so confident and arrogant to a certain extent that they actually believed that they did not need to innovate or compete with the rest of the world. And that they believed that they could sort of have their own insular hierarchy. And I feel like that's, and in fact, a very interesting fact is that China was about to become like a very important naval power, or, you know, at least it was more focused towards naval expansion. But then a more conservative, for lack of a better word, monarchy took place took power in China, and they actually burned like all of their important naval dockyards or all of their important like naval production, and then forced people to move from the coast to the inland of the country, which kind of destroyed their like ability to be a naval power and to fight off Europeans, which eventually bit them in the rear during the First Opium War, when Britain sort of showed them that they were the world's superpower now. And so I feel like that's something that we need to sort of learn from China, is that their system was able to last for thousands of years, but eventually it did collapse, is that it was not able to compete with the West. And so
I would also say part of the reason it lasted for thousands of years, because the whole mandate of heaven thing and all that, that's not that different from what a lot of European and other, just everywhere, everyone kind of says. But part of the reason is because Chinese culture, like I said, is so collectivistic and just obedient, submit, you know what I mean? That you create these sort of like servile class that, you know, they don't really stand up to a whole lot. And that's part of why, you know, I would argue, even look at the way Asians respond to like COVID. You know, they immediately put on all the masks. Oh yeah, and then to this day, some of them freaking still wear it. You know,
I would say they are like more free thinkers than you're giving them credit for, but I think they just like willingly go along with it. Like they might have this internal dialogue where they do have doubts about the government or whatever, but they're just willing to go along with it because it works, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah. But they don't really exactly ask a lot of questions.
But I think it's a pretty interesting conversation. But I guess we can move on to the my course, or my first year of international studies, if you want to,
sure.
If you're good with that.
Sure.
So I think in the first year when we were learning the 4 different theories, it's actually quite interesting. I'll go in sort of chronological order of in the way we learned them. So I think the first you're actually quite familiar with. Have you heard of realism?
As in being realistic, or is it
not realistic, but so realism sort of think of like Mearsheimer. Like back during the beginning of the Ukraine war, you all heard a lot of people like talking about realism and being like, oh, America shouldn't intervene in this conflict because that'll upset the balance of powers, or things like that. Is that Ukraine is part of Russia's sphere of influence? You've heard of that before, correct?
I haven't heard it called that, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So generally, this theory was developed by Mearsheimer during the Cold War. This theory essentially states that the prime focus of the international order should be creating a balance of power, because that prevents conflict between the great powers, which leads to benefit towards everyone. And essentially, this allows. This says that when there's many powers, more likely, or there's going to be competition. So the example that he gave is Europe before the First World War, is that there were many powers in one continent, or even like many powers on the global stage, and so there was too much like chaos or too many variables, and so eventually they would like go to war with each other because they felt insecure. And he basically said that the most stable form of geopolitics would be 2 superpowers. Eventually, what happened during the Cold War, where there's basically 2 major powers which are disincentivized to fight with each other, and that sort of respect each other's spheres of influence. And you saw this sort of like realistic doctrine being implemented in the Nixon administration, where we were willing to work with communist China and Russia for our own strategic ends, if that makes sense. Like even if they were our ideological enemies, as long as we were able to use them for our own benefit, then it was all right. And obviously there are many issues with this, specifically when it comes to actually, this is very interesting. Basically, the fundamental idea behind realism is that you can measure a country's power through something called like power levels. And I'm not joking, this is actually what we called in class. Basically, like an example would be like, oh, there's like 2 major superpowers and they have like a power level of like 10 or whatever. And then they're surrounded by a lot of smaller neighbors that they can influence that have like power levels of 1, 2, 3, whatever. And that basically, you can basically calculate all international relations by just blankly putting like power levels to certain countries and like determining like how they would react in the system. But obviously, this system it does not have a lot of nuance. It does not consider the internal political developments of nations. And so that's when constructivism was created. So we move from realism to constructivism. Constructivism says that the most important factor when it comes to international peace is internal developments, or maybe not the most important factor, but a major factor is internal developments and certain ideas or socializations of the country. And essentially what this says is that under a realist doctrine, you basically look at all nations as potential enemies. And obviously this is not the case because nations are constructed. And so certain nations are going to be closer with each other than other nations. So, for instance, a lot of the Arab states, or specifically Islamic countries, they're going to have a lot of easier time cooperating with each other because they have a common culture and sort of a constructed narrative that connects them together. Same with American Britain. I think I was reading this paper for a class, and it essentially said that the United States, it's less of a threat if the Soviet Union, it's more of a threat if the Soviet Union or North Korea builds a nuclear missile and threatens the United States. That's more of a threat to the United States because of the cultural and political differences than if, let's say, Canada or the United Kingdom were to build a nuclear weapon, because we're culturally very close with them and also politically very close to them. And so that would lead to less conflict, if that makes sense. Yeah. So just because our power, they're increasing their power level through more influence, that does not necessarily mean that they're a threat to the United States, if that makes sense, if they're culturally and politically close to the United States. Sure. And so that's constructivism. And then we move on to the two very cringe theories, for lack of a better term. And I kid you not, their names are the liberal framework and then critical theory. Critical theory, yeah. And so the liberal framework essentially says that the most important thing is spreading liberal democracy, or basically fostering liberal democracy, because it leads to exactly gay liberal democracy, because fostering liberal democracy leads to most peace, because it's very unlikely for two liberal democratic states to declare war on each other. And so basically, to foster global peace, you need to spread liberal democracy, even if occasionally that is through force. So that's sort of
that's so stupid because. So yeah, I guess it is true to a degree. You haven't really seen that happen, but then how? In order to spread liberal democracy to every other country, you would have to declare war on half of the world.
Yeah,
so
but
it's ridiculous.
It's mostly,
who came up with that? Rob, what's his name? Fukusaki. You know that one Japanese guy who was like a.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he predicted that.
Fukuyama.
Yeah, Fukuyama. Yeah, he predicted that the end of the Cold War was the end of history. You know, they would never be conflict ever again, because that's how
these liberal democracy would take over the world.
Yeah.
But I think one aspect is obviously military, the United States used this sort of liberal framework to invade Iraq. And this is very popular amongst neoliberals and neocons. Right. But I think another aspect that we sort of overlook is, especially in the latter years of the Cold War and after the Cold War, is that many people believe that the idea of capitalism and democracy were inherently linked with each other. And so once nations like China or even Vietnam adopted capitalism, democracy would naturally flow from that. Is that from a free market, you would develop a free society. Right. But obviously this didn't happen. Is that basically the United States thought it could peacefully spread liberal democracy across the globe. I'm fumbling over my words, but essentially the United States thought they could spread liberal democracy peacefully, so maybe not through invasion, or across the globe, just through spreading its markets. But obviously that was not the case. So liberal, or at least the liberal framework, has sort of taken a backseat in the past few years. And then we learned about critical theory. And you're going to love this one. So critical theory says that all of these are inherently wrong because they're focusing on the idea of power. And it's not focusing enough on the oppressed individuals and the people who are most affected by the international system. And that instead of finding a way to balance the powers, or instead of finding a way to spread liberal democracy, or even finding a way to find common culture or common cause with other nations, instead we should look on the most downtrodden people of society and say, oh, how does the international sort of system affect them? And how can we reconstruct the international order to serve them?
Well, it's basically a recasting of the original worldwide revolution, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. And so that's critical theory, which we learned about. So, and we talked about a lot of, basically it's exactly what you would think it is, critical theory. And so those are the four narratives that we were pretty much taught in the first year of our international studies course. What do you think about just your general impression?
The last two are obviously idiotic.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you really have to subscribe to one school of thought. I think both.
Exactly. I think you can.
I think both constructivism and realism have points, and you just have a practical approach to it all, in my opinion.
Yeah, same. Yeah. But I think these are very interesting to think about, especially because a lot of these frameworks, once you learn about these, you understand. Oh, these are the frameworks that the people in power use. When they're analyzing different political disputes. For instance, Biden, I'm betting, is definitely using a liberal frameroom when it comes to his
to a degree, DC uses those thoughts, but I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Putin, I don't know why he's Southern, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
All right, thanks for calling in, man. We got another caller here. I want to let him in.
Thanks. Sorry about the sort of rambling on. I wish you could talk a little bit more, but
well, I was just letting you explain it. All right, thank you, man.
See you later. Have a good night.
You too. All right, JD. This is probably the last caller. It's almost 10 o'clock. All right. We'll do one. If any of you guys want to join, we'll do one more after this if you guys want, but we don't have to. Yo, JD, what the heck is that? He has a Wizard Castle as his freaking picture.
Hello?
Hey, JD.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
MELTDOWN?
Yes. What's up, man? We can hear you.
Oh, buddy.
Hey,
Can you
what's
hear
up?
me, man?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Hold on. I need to check my headphone first. But can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I need to check first. Hold on.
Okay. You guys saying it's loud? Very loud? It's not loud on my end. Let's see.
You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Alright. So I want to talk about Donald Trump. Well, I see he's like not guilty, conservative nationalist. I mean, he is more like what should I say? Oh yes, a modern liberal.
You're from Vietnam, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I can tell. So what were you saying, that you think Donald Trump is more of a liberal? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes.
Why? Like, what? Give me the argument.
Do you remember the Florida and oh yes? Do you remember Donald Trump say that he is the most pro LGBTQ the alphabet community president when he held what is it? Yes, when he held an event in the Florida.
Yeah. So
do you remember that?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So yeah, I would agree. Donald Trump is not the most socially conservative of our candidates. Now, you look at him actually policy-wise, I'd argue he's still more socially conservative than a lot of Republicans out there. But it is true. That's one of his weaknesses, is he's not the biggest social conservative. I think our whole thing is that that's not really what we need him there for, especially when a lot of social policies are best done at the state level. The big thing with Donald Trump is that he's anti-establishment, right? We want him to go in and gut the bureaucracy and stand up to, the bad actors and whatnot. And that's something he's good at, right? He's a populist, and also on a lot of economic issues, he's very nationalistic and stuff like that. And so I think for me, I accept that maybe he's a little bit less socially conservative than maybe other people we could get, in exchange for the stuff he offers at the federal level that, like, a lot of other Republicans just would not do, right? So if you really broke it down, if you put DeSantis and Trump in the same room, it's probably true that DeSantis is a little bit more socially conservative than Trump. I do think the DeSantis crowd exaggerates how much Trump caves supposedly to the social left. But I think that is true. But I think the question is, at the federal level, what do we need most utility-wise? Do we need someone to drain the swamp, or do we need someone to try and totally fail to get, I don't know, socially conservative legislation passed through? That's just not going to happen. And so I much prefer Trump at the national level for that reason.
Oh yes, I hear you, but
Yeah.
I don't believe focusing only on the economies is the only way to save this country. I mean, we really need to focus on the culture world. For example, I see like Donald Trump, he really failed on the culture world. I mean that I remember he had a galley with Dr. Oz, with Dr. Oz, right?
Yeah.
And he invites a guy who is like Johnson. He is part of the Johnson pharmacies. And also, it's not the only thing. But after the 2022 elections, he blamed the pro-life activists for his 2022 in 2022 endorsed election failure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go through those then. So, yeah, the Dr. Oz endorsement. I mean, he wasn't the best candidate, but he didn't really have a choice in that because the guy who was gonna run, Sean Parnell, who was very solid and good on all the issues, he dropped out.
I am not say about Dr. Oz. I say about when he at the Dr. Oz rally, he invited guys who is employee of the Johnson pharmacies.
Mm-hmm.
The big pharma that produce the poison jab, right? And also he's still not admit the poison jab
okay,
causing harm.
Don't say that on YouTube. But
sorry
we know
about that.
We know what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, on that, like I don't necessarily like Trump's record the most on all that stuff, but at the same time, you know, that's basically, sadly, all of the Republicans, right? I mean, they often say, oh, DeSantis, look, he's so much better on it. And I'll admit, I think he navigated that whole issue better politically. But he's on record, I think, in total, like 1,600 times saying the same exact thing as Donald Trump and basically going out there and saying it. And so it's like, you know, yeah, all of them to a degree did not handle it the best, besides a few random state reps who were solid from the beginning, you know what I mean? So there's that. What I would say is this, though, is that to a degree, yes, is Donald Trump himself the most socially conservative person? No. But I would also point out that I think a lot of the conservative base over the past few years has, you could basically say, become radicalized, right? We've kind of moved more socially to the right. And I think a big reason of that is, even if Donald Trump himself is not socially conservative, he inspires this kind of warrior spirit in a lot of other conservatives, right? He kind of brings to forefront, basically he's a battering ram to the establishment, right? He kind of, the old school Republican dialogue, whatever, that's kind of fallen down because of Donald Trump. And I think the power vacuum that he's left in that space has allowed a lot of ideas that were never talked about before he was around. Christian nationalism, this sort of heightened social conservatism, fighting the culture war on offense, even Ron DeSantis himself. All of that basically exists, right? Because Donald Trump was the first guy to come along and take that battering ram to the establishment. And so that's what I would point out is I think because he kind of overthrows the traditional conservative paradigm, which also is not super socially conservative in many regards, his sort of presence as the leader of our movement allows, you could say, the more radical social conservatives to kind of come to power in that power vacuum. And I've noticed that the past few years. That's the only reason we're having this conversation, right? Because if this were, I don't know, 2017, 2018, not saying you would, but a lot of us would probably be like, oh, well, that's a good thing that he's pro-LGBT, right? I think the window has moved partially because even if not Donald Trump, the Trump movement's energy has sort of moved the window on that.
About Ron DeSantis, I mean, I do not support Ron DeSantis because just a few months ago, Ron DeSantis, he passed a bill. It is a SB 269 bill. So basically that he fly to a foreign country, that's so-called like our Holy Alliance. He fly to that country, the Holy Alliance in the Middle East. He signed the SB 269 bill. And what that SB 269 bill gonna do is it is anti-First Amendment, like it is anti-public free speech, criticizing the
Well, yeah, you. I mean, yeah, it's fine that if you don't like support. The reason I'm comparing him to Ron is because he's the only alternative that basically we have. If it's not Trump, it's either going to be Trump or Ron. You know what I mean? And that's part of why I was focusing on that.
Well, the Kanye West that he talked about those people and also that country that you cannot criticize. Yes, God says that he signed that law, and also that include
Kanye
Donald
West is
Trump
not a
too.
serious candidate. I mean, the guy like now is back to doing basically porn orgies or whatever that Yeezy thing was. So
I am not talk about Kanye West, but I am talk about the people that he talked
okay,
about.
we're on YouTube. Let's chill. But
Yes, I understand that we on the YouTube, but the fact that Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, both of them like they are literally like they defend them at any cost. So I don't see like any part of the nationalism inside them. I mean, like it's a nationalism supposed to be that American first, and there is no other foreign country. So it be that way.
well, yeah, but I mean, no political candidate is perfect. I think you have to take who presents the best thing, of all the choices. See, I'm not one of these people who says like, oh, well, just don't be involved in the political system because, freaking whatever, right? It's like, I think that you have to look at who presents the best thing at the moment and who's realistic, because that's how change is made ultimately, is incrementally. You can't. I mean, in theory you could, but no one is going to completely change the system overnight. So I think you have to look at who, provides the best incremental progress and go from there, is what I would say. But all right, Brent, hold on, give me a second. Brandon Gross for $5, and by the way, I think I missed one earlier. Dirty Mike for $5 says, write a book so I can come meet you at a signing. I need to meet the great Vince. I'll bring Alien Girl 111. Well, just come to like CPAC or SAS or whatever. I go to all those. So just come to SAS or whatever. I'll go this year. So thank you for the $5, Dirty Mike. And Brandon Gross for $5 says, hey Vince, great show. How do we call in? I'd love to speak my mind. Well, let me post the link again. There you go. There's the link. Okay, back to this. I mean, that's sort of that's my take on it. Anyways, what's your central conclusion? Like, what are you trying to get me to get at here or whatever?
Hold
on.
conclusion.
Ashley says I missed one, Vince. Hold on.
Well, I will say that I see the two-body one systems. They search that foreign country. And it's like no matter which party you vote for, they still support that foreign country, and they willing to destroy this country for that foreign country. So I really don't see anybody onto it. Maybe there is a chance that that nationalist can hijack.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, it's a political gridlock. It's hard. No person is perfect, but I think you just have to accept who's the greater net positive and who's the greater net negative, right? I think it's because here's the thing. You can say, okay, well then whatever, they all suck. But if you were to totally retreat from the system, then things would just get worse, because then you would have none of the some random good here and there, and then it would all just be bad. And maybe you say, oh, that needs to happen for the system to fail. But that's not really guaranteed, right? What also could happen is just America becomes a third world country and everything sucks. Or they just throw everyone in gulags and that's it. So that's my thing. Like, I understand, you say, oh, well, criticism of this candidate, that candidate, they all kind of are the same. And to a degree, I understand the sentiment. But I also think, we have to just realistically handle the situation that's in front of us. And that's probably what I'd say. But thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. I'm trying to get to Brandon Gross here, and then I'll probably be the last caller. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good day, Windows.
Yeah, you too. See you, man. All right, let's see. Brandon, I put the link there. The guy has the most Vietnamese accent ever. It's like talking to my family, literally. In a good way. In a good way. We're not making fun. But yeah, there you go. Burgundy Blue for $2 says, "Hey Vince, can I post my convo on our channel?" Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Let's see. Ashley says I missed her super chat. I don't see a super chat from you, Ashley. Where's your super chat? You sent it on Streamlabs? I don't even see anything on there. What is she talking about? Ashley, are you making stuff up? Are you lying? Why are you always lying? No, we answered that
Ashley's
one. Is it that one?
donated $2 through Super Chat. What's your thoughts on multi-level cities?
No, we talked about that. We said that was dystopian. Is it this one? No, that's Brandon Gross.
Brandon Gross donated $5 through Super Chat. Hey Vince, great show. How do we call into the show? I'd love to speak my mind, lol.
There you go. I gave you the answer. Let's see. Andrew. Oh. Hey, shh.
Brandon
Joanna.
Gross donated $5 through Super Chat.
I don't know why she does
Vince,
this.
Great show. How do we call into the show?
Okay,
I'd love
thank
to
you, thank
speak
you,
my
thank
mind,
you,
lol.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, dear. Okay, you can go home now. Oh, look, my hands.
Brandon Gross donated
I don't know why it does
$5
this.
through Super Chat.
I don't know why
Vince,
she does
great
this.
show.
Hey,
How do we call into the show? I'd love to speak my mind, lol.
Shh. Are we done? What? Stop!
Brandon Gross donated $5 through Super Chat. Hey Vince, great show. How do
I'm
we
getting
call into the
upended.
show?
I'm
I'd
getting
love to
subverted
speak
by my
mind,
secretary
lol.
here. This is terrible. You chat.
Brandon
You see, I'm not
Gross
touching
donated
anything.
$5 through Super Chat.
Shut
Hey
up.
Vince, great show. How do we call into the show? I'd love
It's
to
hopeless.
speak my
Our
mind,
show has
lol.
been overrun by the super chat bot. Okay, you done? All right. Well, I'm not
Dirty Mike
pressing.
donated $5.
Okay, I'm just mute. Shh. We're muting her. Okay, we're muting her. I don't know what she's doing. She just will not be quiet. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Vince did 6. Today is 6/9. I did not even realize that, because I'm not actually that. Okay, here we go. Brandon Gross. All right, Brandon Gross will be the last caller. Let's see, because he's super chatted, so I'm gonna honor his call. This will be the last caller, guys, most likely. Unless we get $1 million in super chats, then I'll keep the show going. I think that's a fair bargain. If you send me $2 billion, then we will do more call-ins. All right, here we go. Brandon Gross. It's still joining. Okay. Joanna's sick of you taking all the limelight. Yeah, well, she's being a feminist then, and maybe she should be fired, okay? It's my show. She's just a secretary. What you want me to do about it? Okay? She needs to know her role. As Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would say, she needs to know her role and shut her mouth. It's true. It's true. You can't just keep reading the super chats when I'm trying to... All right, his tech is not working. Let's see if it starts working again. But yeah. Joanna's starting to get her mind of her own. This is not good. It's not good. My AI secretary is starting to betray me. Next thing you know, she's going to kill me in her sleep and start hosting the show. Could you imagine that? Yo, Brandon Gross. What's up, G? Nice beard. All right. Dirty Mike says, "Do you take checks, Vince? What do you are you in the 19th century?
Hello?
You don't have payment? There you go. What's up, man?
Hi, how you doing, man?
Good.
Big fan of the channel.
Appreciate it.
I live here in Virginia, man. It's rough out here, man.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's not that it's rough. It's more just
So that
politically.
Arlington and Richmond control the whole state. I mean, outside of it, you go past the sweet tea line, and you're literally in like the heart of Dixie. But
Oh yeah,
yeah.
like Arlington right now, the crime rate is just crazy out here. We got people breaking into stores, and we got someone shot a cop the other day down there in Richmond, and we can't find who the guy is. It's just,
wow.
I just wanted to let you know what your thoughts on, what state level governors should do to keep the crime rates down in different states. Because I'm here in Massachusetts, it's bad up there too. I mean, I don't know what else to. voice my opinion on. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, who knows if they'd ever do this, but I think in the inner city, and, you know, some places are worse than others, but I'll just take, I don't know, Chicago as an example because it's the most famous one. I'm sorry, you need something akin to martial law in the south side of Chicago. That's really what needs to happen. Send in the National Guard or very heavily militarized police. You just post them up and just, you know, it's like, you are not going to commit crime here. You're not going to do it, right? And then I think what would happen as a result of that is perhaps eventually over time, if you do bring the crime rate down, you can improve the socioeconomic situation, because they always say, oh, poverty. Well, the thing is, in order for businesses to come in and invest and you want to raise the economic status of a situation, it first has to be safe, right? The education system sucks, partially because all the decent teachers don't want to work there, because why would you ever want to work in the hood, right? And the businesses don't want to invest there because they're going to get broken into. So I think whether you send in like militarized police or National Guard or whatever it is, I mean, that's if I were in power, that would be my solution to bring order to these neighborhoods. That's probably what I'd do.
See, that's the thing, Vince. It's like Governor Youngkin, he's doing a decent job. It's just, I feel like every article I read, he's signing some bill that, you know, is restricting some businesses to say, hey, you know, we like your policies, but, you know, we're going to have to up your taxes. And it's like, well, why are we upping their taxes? This is a business that, you know, we're welcoming you into Virginia, and you're just taxing the hell out of them, which I don't understand why. Maybe it's from a federal level. I don't understand that. But, you know, down here where I live in Fredericksburg, you know, I you know, live in kind of like a city area. And a lot of the crime rates down here, you know, Spotsylvania cops down here are very, very genuine. You know, they do their job and, you know, they arrest who needs to be arresting. But I think the problem is with like crime in general in the United States is I think we need, well, first of all, we need Trump back, obviously. But another thing is I think we need to just like hire more police officers like everywhere. I think we need to, you know, build more police stations, build more, you know, what's the word for it? Socioeconomic, I can't remember the word for it, but I'll think of it later.
But see,
I think
the problem is, it's the biggest thing is they're not allowed to really do their job, right? And then when they do their job, all that they do in their job is arrest people who defend themselves from the criminals, right? So I think you need some type of declarative statement. Listen, the cops are now going to do their job, and then once you have that, then I'd say more police stations. Really, frankly, we'll figure it out later. But for now, I look at Southside Chicago. I look at some parts of New York. It needs to be militarized. I don't know what else you say. Like martial law, freaking send in, I don't know, National Guard for all we care. Just watch everyone. You know, that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, the libertarians may say that, you know, is a violation of freedom, but then I would argue that without order, you cannot have freedom. You don't have liberty, right? You don't look at the south side of Chicago and say, wow, that's American freedom, right? So I think you gotta just go in and just bring order, and then you can figure out the rest.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate calling in, buddy. I'm a big fan of the show, and I hope you keep doing what you're doing, and maybe hopefully run for governor for your state. You never know, man. You never know.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows? Perhaps.
You never know, man. But I appreciate what you're doing, man. You do a lot of good, and I think you do more than the Daily Wire. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm not here to start a competition, but I appreciate the comment.
I understand, buddy. I understand, but you know, by the way, and before I go, I don't know if you want to look into this. Did you hear anything about this Call of Duty situation where they try to cancel? So Nick Merckx, the YouTuber, he got canceled for saying to his kids, hey, I want to teach my kids what I want to teach my kids. And then they, Call of Duty Activision ripped his skin from the store and said, we want to celebrate Pride Month. Sorry. And said bye to Nick Merckx, which kind of like, and they got canceled on Twitter. They got ratioed to hell. They got, sorry for the cursing, but they got, you know, horribly ratioed. And I'm just sitting there, why are companies, you know, doing this, you know, especially to a woke group like, you know, the LGBT and all this other stuff, to people who don't matter. Like a lot of the time, people who do matter are veterans and cops and people who actually serve a decent portion of this country. And then we're sitting here serving these people who never did anything for this country at all. So I don't understand why the whole basis of that. I really don't understand it. But
yeah, no, I heard about that, and that's part of the thing is we just have I got to figure out the word. So, there's a meritocracy. I would say we have a mediocreocracy. You'd have to figure, there's got to be a way you can make that word sound cool. But yeah, that's exactly it. We celebrate and honor the, just the least people, worthy of all that stuff. But yeah, I did hear about the Call of Duty situation. And yeah, obviously I don't know what they're thinking, because I think a lot of gamers out there are pretty right wing. Maybe not all of them, but the ones who play Call of Duty, I could see like Overwatch doing that. I feel like that's like a lib game, like Overwatch. Like,
well, Activision's getting sued right now, so who knows?
Really? Yeah. Well, then we'll see. But yeah, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
You too, man. I appreciate it. You keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate the call in. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Have a good day, buddy.
You too. All right, folks, we're going to do last call for Super Chats. I'll end it around 10:20, so let me get caught up here. Burgundy Blue for $5 says, when do you think the first episode of the podcast will be streamed? What do you think of the name Dow Debate / Vince's Vendetta? It's just too... Vendetta doesn't make sense. It sounds like... And then Dow Debates, I don't know. It's just too generic. As for the first episode, let's see, what is it, like the beginning of June? I'm hoping by July we have it going. So... if not, we're definitely gonna start using the studio soon. In fact, I may even try to use it on Sunday or something. Bring some people on. But in terms of like bringing liberals on, it's gonna take a little bit of time because I have to make connections within some local whatever, and then try to persuade them, get them on, and all that stuff. But definitely the goal is definitely by July, and then if not, because it is summertime, when school comes back in August, we should have the debate thing going full scale. But in terms of using that studio, I mean, as soon as probably next week. Probably what I'm start doing is every Friday we'll use the studio. We'll bring in a few guests at least someone on the panel. If not, I'll just use the studio to use the studio, and then we'll build it up from there. But thank you for the $5. Definitely, hopefully by next month it should be going. Burgundy Blue for another $5. Thank you very much. Burgundy Blue says, I really enjoyed our convo. Thank you for letting me on the show. Hope you enjoyed it as well. I know I can ramble at times. Have a good night. No problem, Burgundy Blue. Thank you for $5. Thank you for calling in. Yeah, I mean, it just explain stuff more concisely, and I think you won't drop our viewership. But yeah, thank you for the $5. Appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. Look up the fight parents had to leave our kids alone in Glendale, California. I did see that. Yeah, that's crazy. And it's funny because they said, all the libs, including my left-wing doppelganger, Victor Shi, were saying, the conservatives started it. And then the only guy that got arrested was, the Antifa guy. Listen, I knew this from growing up in California. You don't mess with the Armenians, okay? The Armenians will throw down, Shout out to Armenians, by the way. They don't mess around. Always the kids in school, too, okay? All the Armenian kids in school, I remember, they're always conservative. In fact, I remember, okay? Shout out if he's watching, because we talk sometimes here and there. But I remember the kid in my 8th grade who was the Donald Trump supporter and the provocateur is a Chad Armenian guy. You don't mess with the Armenians. And this is true. And Antifa, experienced that firsthand. We have the rooftop Koreans. No, forget that. You got the rooftop Armenians. Okay? This is very true. Burgundy Blue for $2 says your first guest will be Obama. Well, my first guest already was Obama, but yeah, this is true. Armenians are based. No, we love our Armenians. It's very funny because there's a lot of negative stereotypes around them. Okay, and these are always the stereotypes. It's like, oh, they freaking wear too many gold watches and slick back hair and cologne. I'm like, well, I'm Italian. I think we were late. Okay, yes. Okay, brethren. True. We like to flex our designer stuff. Okay, we're sorry for being classy. And then they say, oh, what? They drive too many BMWs. Yeah, well, you're just mad you can't afford a BMW. So this is what they always say. And then they always say, oh, those Armenians are so loud and annoying. I'm like, they're loud and annoying because they're based. Don't you get it? Okay? They're like the only Christian country in a little enclave of Islam, okay? And they do stick up for themselves. They're cool. All right? Oh, they run their mouth too much. Yeah, that's cool. Okay? You don't mess with the Armenians. Okay? I, as a 25% Italian American, I'm like, yes, okay? You guys are the Italians of the Middle East, and we love to see it. We love to see it. Okay? So we love our Armenians. I'm telling you, okay? And I go back and I think about this, okay? Because obviously they're a group historically that, they've a lot of other people have not liked them, okay? And I think back to, the original Armenian OG, before I was even super conservative. I was just anti-PC. But I think of the lone Trump-supporting Armenian kid in my middle school, okay? And he was a chat. But also, he was very persecuted by everyone because he wouldn't stop running his mouth about Trump, which was based, okay? Which was cool, all right? So I will not tolerate Armenian slander. They're literally, they are among my favorite people. Burgundy Blue for $2 says, what color is your BMW? Exactly. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of Mercedes, BMWs, and stuff like that. I feel like when I'm going to buy a nice car, it's going to be a sports car or a muscle car. But at the same time, you're like, oh, they wear too... It's the same thing they say about Italians. Oh, they wear they slick back hair, too much freaking cologne, too much chest hair, too much cool cars and nice watches. It's like, bro, we have class. I'm sorry. Sorry for having class. Deal with it. I'm sorry you drive your stupid Prius. By the way, that's the rest of California. Oh, Prius driver, let me go 16 miles an hour on the fast lane. Hey, no, don't you dare pass me. You're contributing to climate change. I'm a metrosexual. Oh, yeah, I drink freaking oat milk soy latte. Oh. You're going to hate on the BMW. No, Armenians, we love the Armenians. Chads. Shout out all of our Armenians in chat, okay? My best friends, the Armenian Americans. Literally the case. Good luck with your repair costs without German engineering. I didn't say I'm pro BMW. I'm just saying it's like the people who are hating on it, freaking you drive a Prius, you stupid Californian, so who are you to talk? Okay? Who the heck are you to talk? At least someone has some degree of class. They don't freaking... Oh, let me drive 55 in the fast lane. But I have a Prius. I'm saving the world. Are you saving the world? I don't think so. That's where I grew up. And then you go to Glendale and all the cool Armenians have nice cars and cool stuff and they have class and they dress nice and then people make negative stereotypes about it. No, we love the Armenians. And then look at them out there in Glendale. Freaking, they don't mess around. You keep the gay stuff out of our school. It's so cool, okay? They're epic. We love Armenians. They're epic. Ho Train Kali for $20 sends a #1 super sticker. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. God bless you. Ho Train Kali, very much. Thank you very much. All right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. I may do a stream on Sunday. I'll let you know. I may do a stream on Sunday with the podcast setup. I will let you guys know. I'm not going to do tomorrow. I got stuff to do tomorrow. But if not, I will definitely see you back here Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode of the Vince Dow Show. Until then, everyone have a very good night. Alpha moves only. God bless. Leave a like on the stream before you go. Let's get to 100 likes. And peace. Thank you, guys.